You wake before the sun does. The sky is still a dull grey, stretched wide above a world of grass that seems to have no end. There is no comfort in this morning, no coffee waiting, no warmth, except what clings to your skin beneath a sheepskin coat that smells faintly of smoke and sweat. The wind, sharp and dry, cuts across the open plain and brushes your face with the reminder that you do not belong here. There is a horse nearby, already saddled, restless and waiting. Its breath is visible in the cold air. Behind you, a low voice calls in a language you don't know. Not a shout, not a greeting, just an order. You do not understand the words, but you understand what they mean. The day has started, and you are already behind. You feel the stiffness in your limbs, as if your muscles had frozen during the night. The bed, if it can be called that, is nothing more than layered wool over packed earth. Your back aches in places you didn't know could ache. You sit up slowly, careful not to make too much noise, though no one seems to care. The world outside the yurt is beginning to hum, not loudly, but with the quiet movements of early discipline. Someone tightens a saddle strap. Someone coughs near a pile of embers. The horses shift in clusters, their hooves stirring the dry ground. This is the moment you realize there is no easing into this world. There is only motion. You step out, and the wind hits you harder now. The cold doesn't bite, it burns. It climbs into your sleeves, beneath your collar. You pull your coat tighter, but it helps little. The smell of animals is everywhere, of dung, sweat, and wet fur. The smell of survival. A few men gather near a tent, sharing some drink from a leather pouch. None of them speak to you. None of them even look. It is as though you are invisible, and yet fully seen. You stand out. Everything about you does. You have no idea where you are, no understanding of what is expected. You know only this: the day has begun, and you must follow, even if you do not know where it leads. You hear the soft clink of metal as bridles are buckled and stirrups adjusted. The sound is rhythmic, almost meditative. Someone nearby coughs again, dry, short, unbothered. Another pours a ladle of thin broth into a wooden bowl and gulps it in 2 swallows. There is no conversation, no greeting rituals, no eye contact offered to you. Everyone has a place. Everyone moves with purpose, and you, quite clearly, do not belong. The weight of this difference presses on you as firmly as the layers of clothing wrapped around your chest. You are an outsider, wrapped in borrowed garments, standing on borrowed ground. Your fingers are stiff as you pull your coat tighter. The tips burn, not from heat, but from the return of circulation. You had not noticed how tightly you had curled in your sleep, or how long you had remained still, trying to conserve warmth. Now your body protests every movement, and yet there is no space for delay. No one will wait for you to catch up. You try to copy what you see. A man bends to tie a strip of hide around a bundle. Another secures a long spear to the side of a horse. Each motion is quiet, functional. There is no wasted movement, no discussion, as if all instructions were absorbed in advance. You wonder, not for the first time, how many years it takes to become that efficient, that silent, that adapted. Someone tosses you a strip of meat. It lands on the ground near your foot. Not a gesture of kindness, but a test. You pick it up, brush away the dirt, and chew slowly. It is dry and tough, almost flavorless, but it is food, and that is enough. The wind picks up again, swirling the dust near the camp. A child runs between 2 wagons, holding a leather strap, her breath puffing in the cold. A dog trots after her, ears perked. Even the animals seem to know the rhythm here. It is not chaotic, it is precise. Just beneath the surface of stillness, everything is moving, not loudly, not quickly, but constantly. The sky is lightening now, that pale, washed-out blue that comes just before the sun makes its full appearance. You squint into it, hoping for warmth, but the cold remains, and with it, the quiet certainty that this day will not slow down for you. It will unfold, hour by hour, whether you are ready or not. Introduction. This is not a history lesson. You will not hear the rise and fall of an empire told through battles or maps. This is something quieter, a different kind of story, one where nothing moves quickly, yet everything matters. Tonight we will take a slow walk through a single day. Not just any day, but a day in the life of someone swallowed into the Mongol Horde. You are not a general, you are not a warrior, you are simply there, a stranger, a witness, perhaps a prisoner. And from the moment you open your eyes, the world around you makes it clear you are out of place. The Mongol Horde was not built for comfort. It did not leave space for softness. It was efficient, cold, disciplined, and above all, it moved, always. Day or night, spring or winter, the wheels rolled and the hooves struck the earth, carving out a rhythm that left no room for hesitation. You did not question, you did not rest, you did not exist outside the structure. You were part of it, or you were gone. The world you are entering is old, far older than the names and dates that usually fill history books. It is a world held together, not by written laws, but by bonds of fear, respect, and survival. A world where fire is not for comfort, but for necessity, where silence is a language, where movement is life. The Mongol camp does not welcome outsiders. It endures them, tests them, and discards them if they fall short. As the wind sweeps across the steppe, it carries with it the dust of centuries. This dust settles in your hair, your clothes, your throat. You are breathing in history, but not the kind that comforts. This is the kind that weighs. Every gesture, every step, every pause, it all carries meaning, and you are only beginning to learn the vocabulary. Do not expect stories of Genghis Khan's battles here. That is not what tonight holds. Tonight is quieter, more personal. It is a meditation on discomfort, a reflection on the loneliness of survival, an invitation to imagine not just what happened, but what it felt like to be there, to rise with the cold, to ride with the silent, to sleep with one eye open. There will be no glory in this tale, no heroic deeds, no triumphs. There will only be the slow erosion of expectation, the humbling of self, and the steady realization that this world does not bend to your will. It does not wait for your comfort, and it does not care if you understand. And so, with the gentleness of night, we begin not to survive the day, but to learn why you wouldn't. Perhaps you have read about them, the horsemen who swept across continents, who built an empire through sheer motion, through coordination, through fear. But none of those stories prepare you for the stillness within the movement. The long, cold silences between commands, the waiting, the weight of watching others, hoping to mimic their steps without standing out, the ache of not knowing what comes next. This is what we will explore, slowly, patiently. You will not be rushed. In fact, you will be slowed, deliberately, so that each detail becomes clear. The feeling of layered wool against the skin, the roughness of fermented mare's milk on your tongue, the burn of saddle straps against your thighs after hours of riding, the scratch of dust behind your ears at the end of the day. Each discomfort, each unfamiliar sensation, part of the full picture of why survival here is not a given. And it's not just about the body, it's about the mind. The way you must fold yourself in, make yourself smaller, quieter, how you must erase habit, preference, pride. There is no room for softness, no space for protest. You are one among many, and you are not even one of them. Tonight, we imagine this not with urgency, but with quiet, with breath, with gentle pacing. We allow the cold to seep in, slowly, the hunger to settle, the longing for home to echo without resolution, not as pain, but as presence, as texture. Because this is not just about a people, it is about a way of being, a way of seeing the world from horseback, from camp, from within a discipline so ancient it did not need words to survive. So lie back. Let your muscles loosen. Let your eyelids drift, and follow the slow rhythm of a day you were never meant to survive. A day that begins now, quietly, with the cold wind of the steppe, and the breath of a horse already waiting for you to move. You close your eyes for a moment, but the cold presses against your lids. There is no escape in stillness. You breathe deeply, trying to ground yourself, but the air itself is unfamiliar, thin, dry, flavored with smoke, dust, and the faint trace of animals. You realize slowly that comfort is not part of this equation, not in body, not in spirit. There is only endurance. Endurance and obedience. A man walks past you. His face is weathered, marked by sun and wind. His expression is unreadable. He does not pause, but his eyes meet yours for a heartbeat, not with curiosity, not with recognition, but with something closer to assessment. Then he looks away. That too is part of the rhythm. Everything here is part of a rhythm. You are not in it, not yet. You reach for a nearby bundle, unsure if it belongs to you or even if you are allowed to touch it. The hesitation is a whisper of the larger truth. You do not know the rules, and you must learn them quickly or disappear beneath them. There are no signs, no explanations, only consequences. This is the introduction to a world that does not need you, a system that functions without offering you a place, without asking your permission, and yet, here you are, wrapped in unfamiliar clothing, breathing foreign air, tasting food meant for bodies shaped by years of motion and hardship. You will not change this world. You will not bend it to fit your comfort. Instead, if you are lucky, you will vanish into its structure, invisible, obedient, cold, and maybe in time accepted. But for now, there is only this day. The first, the hardest, the beginning of understanding, the slow unraveling of the self you brought here, and the long quiet lesson of why survival is not just unlikely, it is almost impossible. The yurt behind you is now empty, its warmth already fading. The hearth at the center has gone cold, its ashes dull and grey, barely whispering the heat they once held. You think about that fire, how small it was, how closely everyone sat around it without speaking, the way they passed food, not to share joy, but to maintain function. Each bite chewed methodically, no seasoning, no decoration, just sustenance, just what was needed to keep moving. There was no ceremony, no spoken gratitude, only eyes that flicked up to assess, then flicked away. You were seen. You were tolerated, but you were not welcomed. And still you sat there, part of the circle in shape, if not in spirit. That memory already feels distant. As the wind scrapes the edge of your hood and pulls at the corners of your sleeves, soon the camp will vanish. The carts will creak into motion, the yurts folded down in minutes, the horses yoked and loaded. Nothing here is permanent. The ground beneath your feet will show no sign by midday that 100 lives slept on it just hours before. It is as if the Mongol Horde is made of smoke, visible, powerful, but never staying long enough to leave more than a scent. And you, what will you carry with you? The stiffness of your limbs, the rawness of your palms, the ache behind your eyes. But more than that, you will carry the weight of not knowing what comes next, not knowing the rules, not knowing if the next camp will be kinder, or if you will make it that far. That is the burden of the outsider, to move not just through land but through uncertainty, carried forward by hope, or fear, or both. So now, as the first true light breaks over the eastern hills, and the silhouettes around you stretch and shift, you pull your coat tight once more, close your mouth against the cold, and take one step forward. You do not know where you are going, but here, in this moment, you begin to understand why you would not survive even a single day in the Mongol Horde. Not because of a single wound or failure, but because the world itself moves in a rhythm too old, too unforgiving, too sure of itself to ever slow down for you. Chapter 1. The Cold Dawn. You are awake, but not rested. The first breath you take is shallow, tentative. The air inside the yurt is no longer warm. It clings to your lungs like smoke that never left. Your limbs feel heavy, not from sleep, but from cold. a slow, creeping cold that arrived long before sunrise and settled into your joints like an old tenant. You do not stretch. You do not sigh. You simply sit upright, careful not to wake anyone, though you doubt they would care if you did. The yurt's ceiling is a circular opening above your head. The night sky has retreated into a pale, flat color, not yet day, not quite night. You can hear the wind outside brushing past the taut fabric, creating a soft hiss that never fully stops. There is no birdsong, no rooster, only the persistent groan of the plains, a kind of ancient whisper reminding you that you are not welcome here. You wrap your coat tighter around your chest, not because it helps, but because the motion is familiar. It is something your hands remember to do. The coat still smells like wood smoke and wool, and beneath that, the musky odor of sweat. You slept in your boots. Everyone does. You did not remove them, not because you feared something, but because that is simply what's done. There is no luxury of airing out the body, only preservation, only readiness. You stand, your knees crack softly. You crouch near the small iron stove, a shell of warmth, long gone cold. Its coals are no longer glowing. You don't have the knowledge to relight it, and no one will help you if you ask. You are expected to know, or to adapt without complaint. You stare at the fading black ash for a moment before turning away. The yurt's flap is secured with simple cords. You undo them slowly. You don't know why. There is no point in hesitation, yet hesitation still clings to you like the morning chill. Outside, the light has changed. The horizon is wide, impossibly wide, as if the earth has stretched itself to its limits. There are no fences, no landmarks, only sky and grass, a flat palette of faded greens and greys, brushed with frost. The cold wind doesn't rush to greet you. It simply is, always present, never still. You blink into it, and it blinks back with silence. The camp is already alive, but not in the way you imagined. There is no chaos, no barking orders. The noise is low, efficient, minimal. A woman wraps a bundle of dried meat in linen. A boy leads 2 horses out of their tie. Someone tightens the axle of a cart. Every movement is purposeful. There is no wasted motion. Even the dogs, shaggy, alert, narrow-eyed, patrol in quiet circles, as if they too have been trained to keep the calm. You walk stiffly, not because of injury, but because your body is not yet part of this world. Your muscles rebel against the posture, the pace, the pressure. You are not hungry, not yet, but you sense that food will not come as a comfort. It will come as a chore, a necessity, something to be consumed while standing, something to be kept down, not savored. The men nearby are fitting saddles onto their horses. Not one of them speaks. The horses make soft, pulsing sounds, exhaling with short bursts, stamping occasionally, sensing the mood of their riders. You approach one of the beasts. It is smaller than you imagined, stocky and strong, with eyes that seem to look through you. It does not shy away. It does not greet you. Like everything else here, it simply waits. You reach for its bridle, unsure if you're allowed. No one stops you, but that does not mean you've done it right. The saddle is hard, wooden beneath the leather, designed not for comfort, but for endurance. You do not mount yet. The morning routine is not rushed. There is an order to things, a flow, but you do not know the pattern. You stand still, pretending you do. Smoke drifts from a nearby fire pit. Someone is boiling broth in a blackened pot. The smell is faint, salty. Another man chews dried meat, pulling it from his teeth with the edge of a knife. He doesn't look up. The knife is sharp, not polished, not ceremonial, simply used, the kind of tool that lives in a belt, not on a shelf. You feel your spine stiffen as a group of riders begins to move. They ride slowly at first, circling the camp like a river around a stone. Their eyes scan the distance, not for beauty, not for wonder, for threat, for change, for anything out of place. No one tells you what to do. No one hands you food. No one asks if you slept. And still, somehow you are expected to fall into rhythm. you begin to walk, your feet sinking slightly into the frost-covered grass. The wind is stronger here, away from the shelter of the yurts. It pushes at your back, as if to say, move or be moved. This is the cold dawn, not dramatic, not loud, but absolute. It wraps around you like a second skin and enters you through breath, through step, through stillness. And it tells you, without speaking, that this world does not need your understanding. It only needs your obedience. You pause near the horses again, unsure if you are meant to join the next patrol, to prepare gear, or to simply wait. The absence of instruction is not an oversight. It is a test. This place does not bend to uncertainty. It observes it from the corners of eyes, from behind the veils of routine. You are being watched, not with malice, but with calculation. A young man near you straps a water skin to his saddle. He does not speak, but his fingers move swiftly, with the rhythm of long practice. The water inside is not clear, not cool. It's thick, with the flavor of smoked leather and thyme. You can smell the residue from a few feet away. You wonder how they drink it, without pause. You wonder what your own body will accept when thirst replaces pride. There is no laughter in the camp, not because these people do not feel joy, but because it is not part of the morning. The dawn belongs to duty, to discipline. Emotions, if they exist, are held close, beneath layers of silence and repetition. A child passes you carrying a bundle twice her size. She stumbles, but no one helps. She rights herself. No complaint, no pause. You move toward the central part of the camp, where carts are being packed. Wooden wheels, wrapped in animal hide, creak softly as they're adjusted. Blankets, ropes, spare tools, everything is folded tightly, efficiently. There is no excess. Nothing here is for beauty. Even the carts themselves are worn smooth from travel, their surfaces darkened by years of wind and rain. Your hands are already dry and cracked. You rub them together, but it does nothing. You pull your gloves tighter and press your palms into your thighs, seeking warmth. It is not there. It never was. Warmth must be earned in this place, through movement, through endurance. Another patrol returns. Their faces are unreadable. Their horses are lathered, breathing heavily. One dismounts, checks the girth strap, and remounts without a word. They do not pause to report. If there is news, it will be shared when it matters. If it matters, you learn quickly that not all motion ends in revelation. Sometimes it is just repetition, just rhythm, just proof that the world turns even when nothing changes. A horn sounds in the distance. Low, soft, almost indistinct, yet everyone responds. Heads turn, movements pause. There is a shift in posture, in pace. Someone tightens a saddle. Another adjusts a cart axle. The signal meant something, though you do not know what. And again, no one explains. You begin to feel hunger now, a dull ache beneath your ribs. You reach into your coat and find the strip of meat from the night before. It is dry, fibrous, nearly inedible. You chew it slowly, without joy, without resistance. The flavor is smoke, salt, and thyme. You swallow hard. The meat sticks in your throat before moving down. But you feel better, a little more prepared. As the light sharpens, the wind changes. It carries with it the distant sound of hooves, not close, not urgent, just present. You see a line on the horizon, a formation perhaps, or just another cluster of riders shifting through the landscape. It is hard to tell distances here. The openness plays tricks on your eyes. What looks near is far. What feels far is often already here. The cold does not lift. The sun has appeared, pale and distant, barely warming the tops of the yurts. You think of sun as life, but here it is simply light, not heat. It reveals things without comforting them. It casts long shadows that stretch and bend across the plains, as if reminding you of time's slow march. You are beginning to understand that survival in this world is not about strength. It is about rhythm, the ability to move without question, to act without delay, to be invisible in your efficiency and valuable in your silence. You are not those things. Not yet. Perhaps not ever. Someone gestures for you to come. A single nod. No words. You follow. You do not ask why. The man leads you to a bundle and points to the straps. You begin to lift it. It is heavier than you expected. Awkward. Unbalanced. You adjust. Shift your grip and carry it to the wagon he indicates. He watches. Then nods again. You have done well. Or at least, not poorly. That too is a kind of welcome. By now, most of the yurts have been broken down. The camp is dissolving before your eyes. What once felt like a village becomes a handful of carts, a row of saddled horses, and fading footprints in the frost. This is what it means to live on the steppe, to leave no trace, to pass through without holding on. You mount your horse. You do not do it gracefully, but you do it. Your knees protest. Your back tenses, but you stay seated. You grip the reins, feel the leather tighten, and wait for the signal to move. The man beside you says nothing, but for the first time, he does not look past you. He looks with you toward the open plain ahead. The cold dawn is over. The day has begun. And with it, your silent march into a world that neither asked for you nor promised you survival. You shift in the saddle as the procession begins to form. Hooves stir the frosted grass, carts creak forward, and breath rises in quiet clouds. There are no shouted commands, no whistles, no dramatic gestures, and yet everyone moves in unison, guided by a rhythm so ingrained it does not need explanation. You are part of the line now, though just barely. Your horse senses your awkwardness, your unfamiliar grip, but it does not resist. It simply moves. Around you, the riders do not speak. Their eyes scan the horizon. Their backs remain straight. Even in motion, there is no looseness, no indulgence. Each movement has a purpose. Even the slow blinking of an eye beneath a fur-lined hood. They are men shaped by this land, by its hardness, its wind, its silence. And you, though among them, are not of them. You feel this difference in your bones. The steppe stretches endlessly ahead. It is a map with no markers, a path with no signs. The sky above is pale and immense, making you feel smaller with every glance. You have never known a horizon so wide, so indifferent. It does not greet you. It does not offer promise. It simply is. Always there. Always beyond. Your body begins to ache as the horse walks. Not in sharp, sudden ways, but with a slow, steady pressure that builds in your thighs, your shoulders, your neck. The saddle was not made for comfort. It was made for survival. And survival, you are beginning to understand, does not care about ease. It cares only about continuation. One more step, one more breath, one more mile. You glance at the rider beside you. His face is mostly covered. Only his eyes show. They are not unfriendly, but they are unreadable. He nods once, not as greeting, but as acknowledgement. You exist. You are here. That is enough. For now, the procession continues. The morning deepens, and you begin to grasp the truth of this place. It does not teach with words. It teaches with cold, with silence, with the weight of every task done without praise. It teaches by letting you fail, then expecting you to continue anyway. This is the Mongol dawn, not an event, a condition, a reality, one that you cannot argue with, cannot soften, cannot avoid. And as the camp disappears behind you, leaving no trace, you know that everything ahead will ask the same thing of you: adapt or fall. There is no third option, and so you ride into the cold wind, into the unfamiliar, into the quiet demands of a world that has never waited for anyone. Chapter 2. The yurt and its harsh warmth. You return in memory to the space that held you through the night. The yurt. It sits low to the ground, circular and weathered. Its structure formed from wooden lattice and thick felt made from compressed wool. The door, a heavy flap of thick fabric, offers no real barrier from the outside. The wind presses through its seams as easily as breath through lips. And yet, within its walls, something holds, not comfort, never comfort, but enclosure, the kind of enclosure that matters only when there is nothing else between you and the sky. Inside, the light is dim. The roof ring above, called a tuno, allows in a sliver of the sky, but it's a washed-out patch, more grey than blue. Smoke lingers near the opening, slow to rise. The hearth beneath it, central to everything, burns low now. A few coals pulse faintly, orange among black ash. You crouch beside it, out of instinct, though it offers little warmth. The metal stove is cold to the touch. Someone will light it again, perhaps, but not yet. There is a rhythm to such things, a discipline that is not visible but deeply felt. The floor beneath you is made of layered rugs, thick, matted, worn by time. Beneath them, dirt and compacted earth. There is no furniture, not as you know it, no chairs, no tables. Just bundles, skins, tools, everything with a purpose, everything placed with care. The inside of the yurt is like a body, every item part of a system. Nothing is ornamental. Even the few patterned textiles that hang from the inner frame speak of history, not vanity. They are memory woven into fabric, not decoration. You sit cross-legged, uncertain where to place your hands. The space is not yours, and you feel it. The walls curve inward slightly, embracing yet unforgiving. Others share the yurt. A woman prepares a bowl of broth. A child sleeps near the wall, wrapped in wool. An elder sharpens a knife using short, slow strokes that echo softly in the confined air. No one speaks, not because there is silence, but because words are reserved, precious, used when necessary, and never more. You recall the night, how tightly you wrapped your coat, how you curled into your side to retain what little warmth your body could generate. You didn't sleep deeply. No one did. Sleep here is practical, not restorative. It's a pause between labor, not a reward. Even in rest, there is tension in the body, an awareness that the day begins early, and without warning, the stove had burned brighter then. Someone had fed it dried dung, the only fuel that endures these lands. The smell was sharp, but bearable. It mingled with the scent of boiled milk, of leather, of old wool, scents that do not wash away but accumulate, layering memory upon memory into the air itself. The woman handed you a wooden bowl then, the same one you think. She is filling now. The contents were simple, a thin porridge made from millet or barley, warmed just enough to eat. There was no spoon. You drank it, grateful, not because it was tasty, but because it was food, and food is not questioned. You offered a nod in thanks. She did not nod back, but she did not turn away, either. You tried to remember if she looked at you then, truly looked, or if her eyes passed over you, as they do now. You are not invisible, but you are unclaimed. You exist within this structure, but not within its story. Not yet. That place must be earned, and earning takes time, not the time of days, but of endurance, the time of observation, repetition, quiet reliability. You do not speak, you do not ask, you watch. Outside, the sounds of disassembly begin. Ropes loosened, tent walls folded, metal clinking. The yurt you sit in will vanish soon, folded into bundles, loaded onto carts. What feels like a home is only a moment, and moments here do not last. The hearth, the rugs, the walls, all impermanent. Only the people and the wind remain constant. You run your hand along the frame beside you. The wood is smooth from handling, tied tightly with strips of hide. It holds firm, despite its age. You realize that every part of the yurt is known by someone, maintained, repaired, remembered. Nothing is disposable. Nothing is meaningless. Even the smallest stitch has history, and here you are, new, unshaped, without memory in these walls. A visitor to warmth, but not yet of it. The child stirs now, blinking slowly, his small hands clutching a strip of hide that serves as a toy. He does not cry. Children here do not wail in the morning. They observe, absorb, learn. Even at this young age, His eyes follow the rhythm of movement, the folding of cloth, the ladle dipped into broth, the sharpening of tools. You watch him, quietly astonished, realizing how discipline is not taught here. It is inherited by breath, by exposure, by sheer immersion. The elder finishes his work. The knife's edge is now honed to an invisible sharpness. He tests it on a sliver of leather, slicing it clean without effort. Then he places it into a worn sheath, ties the strap, and rises. No words are spoken. No explanations given, and still you understand the significance of that blade, how much it has seen, how long it has lasted, how deeply it is trusted. The woman hands you the bowl again. This time, the porridge is slightly thicker, warmer. It fills your palms with a temporary relief. You sip it slowly. It is not pleasant, but it is real. It anchors you, if only for a few minutes. Your body responds with gratitude. Your mouth does not express. She sits across from you. Her eyes meet yours briefly, not in warmth, not in coldness, in neutrality, in recognition of coexistence. You feel the floor shift slightly as someone walks past outside. The yurt is light enough to respond to footsteps, to wind, to even a change in posture. It is a breathing thing, this space. It inhales activity, exhales silence. You finish your bowl and set it carefully aside. The woman reaches for it without speaking. No gesture is wasted, no movement repeated. A second elder enters. He carries a coil of rope and a bundle of fur. His face is sun-worn, deep-lined, unreadable. He says nothing to the others, only nods, and begins sorting his tools. The woman and the child begin to gather their items. The stove is no longer the center of the yurt. The center is now motion, packing, folding, readiness. This is not a home. It is a base, temporary, always prepared to disappear. You rise to help. You reach for a folded skin, unsure if it's yours to carry. The woman watches you for a moment, not to stop you, but to observe your form, your weight distribution, the angle of your lift. Then she nods, just slightly. You are allowed. That is something, a beginning. The outer walls are removed next. The yurt breathes differently now. The sky begins to press in. The walls, once enclosing and protective, now lie open, exposed to the wind. The cold enters without resistance. Your body tightens in response, but no one else flinches. They are used to it. They do not notice. Piece by piece, the structure becomes fragments. The curved poles are unlashed. The felt is folded. The ropes are coiled. The hearth is left for last. A hollow ring of ash and stone. It is not sacred. It is simply unfinished. It will be made again elsewhere, identical in shape, slightly different in feeling. You carry your bundle to a nearby cart. It is heavy, but not unbearable. The ground crunches beneath your boots, still stiff from sleep. The horses are nearby now, hitched and shifting, their heads low. One of them watches you. Its ears turn slightly as you pass. No sound, just observation. It is becoming familiar. You step back as the others finish loading the last pieces. The yurt that was your night's shelter no longer exists. It is a memory inside bundles, inside muscle memory. You feel something strange, not loss, but awareness, that nothing here is permanent. That permanence is a story told elsewhere. Here, only what moves survives. The woman and the child climb into the cart. The elder sits at the front, takes the reins. You do not ask to ride. You simply walk alongside as the wheels begin to turn. The sound of motion is soft, muffled by the grass. The day has started. The yurt is behind you. But in truth, it is not behind. It is simply folded, ready to return when the night comes again. You realize now that the yurt is not home. It is shelter. It is ritual. It is habit. It is history made portable. A structure that can vanish in an hour and reappear at dusk, indistinguishable from the one before, and yet each one holds the breath of the day, the steam of soup, the echo of fire. You do not miss it. You carry it, in smell, in stiffness, in silence. And as you walk forward, toward whatever the next camp will be, you know this. You were inside something that has been used for centuries, a design unchanged, a culture built on motion, not rootedness. And if you wish to survive, even a single day, you must learn to carry warmth within yourself, as they do, not from fire, but from discipline, from rhythm, from the understanding that nothing here stays except the will to go on. The carts begin to roll steadily. The pace is slow, deliberate, yet it does not stop. You glance back once, not to look for the yurt, but to remind yourself how quickly a home can vanish. The space where it stood is now empty, a patch of flattened grass, a scatter of cold ash. Nothing else remains. No trace of fire, no footprint worth preserving. You walk in silence beside the caravan. The wind presses against your side, always present, like an instructor reminding you not to forget your place. The woman ahead adjusts the blanket around her child. The elder does not speak. He holds the reins with quiet attention, guiding the cart as if it were part of him. You envy his certainty, the way his hands move without doubt, the way he needs no questions to proceed. You try to match the pace, not just with your steps, but with your posture, with your breath, with the small economy of motion that everyone here seems to possess. It is not easy. Your feet ache, your shoulders are sore from lifting awkward bundles, but you keep moving, because movement is the only language understood here. To stop is to falter. To falter is to disappear. Another rider passes by. He says nothing. His horse trots ahead with a rhythm that matches the creaking wheels. You watch his back, the curve of his shoulders, the balance of his seat. It is not learned in a day. It is the product of years, of mornings like this one, of nights spent beside flickering fires in structures that would vanish by dawn. You wonder how long it would take before you would be allowed to lead a cart, to tie a rope, to enter a yurt without hesitation. You wonder if that day will ever come. But for now, there is only this step, this breath, this cold, this motion, and with it the memory of the yurt, not as a shelter but as a mirror, reflecting not who you are, but who you must become to remain here. Quiet, useful, invisible in presence, undeniable in rhythm, a bearer of warmth, not seeker of it. That is the lesson the yurt leaves you with, and that lesson will travel with you, through dust, through frost, through time. Chapter 3. Clothing the warrior body. The wind does not wait for you to dress. It rushes across the plains without pause, slipping through every open seam, every fold of fabric, every weak spot in your armor against the cold. You stand near the cart, hands stiff, fingers red, preparing to put on what passes for protection in this world, not just against weather, but against time, against fatigue, against invisibility. There is no wardrobe, no mirror, no privacy. You layer yourself beside the horse, beside the others, your movements awkward and uncertain. The clothes are simple, practical, heavy. First, a tunic of rough wool, then another, lighter layer of quilted cloth. These are worn for warmth, yes, but also for absorption. Sweat will build quickly when the ride begins. These layers catch it before it soaks your armor. Next comes the silk, an underlayer you do not expect, smooth, tightly woven, warmer than it looks. You wonder why, and then remember what you've heard, that silk, unlike other fabrics, does not tear easily, that if an arrow strikes, it enters with the silk, and the threads wrap around the wound, sometimes even slowing the shaft. It is not superstition, it is engineering. The silk is not luxury, it is defense. You pull on the trousers next, thick, padded, stiff at the joints. You feel clumsy in them. They are made for riders, not walkers. You move in them like a novice, unsure where your own limbs begin and the fabric ends. Around you, others dress quickly, expertly, each strap tied, each buckle fastened with unconscious precision. Their clothing is old, worn, repaired again and again. But it fits, not because it was made for them, but because they have molded themselves to fit it. Over your tunic, you fasten the belt, wide, rough leather. From it hangs a small blade, a pouch, a water flask. Everything must be accessible. There is no pause allowed when riding. What you carry must be enough, and never more than what you need. You adjust it 3 times before it sits. Right, no one helps, no one watches, but you feel the judgment anyway. Then comes the armor, not the shining plate of fairy tales, not the gleam of storybooks. This is scale or lamella, overlapping pieces of hardened leather, sometimes reinforced with metal or horn. It smells of sweat and rain. It creaks when you move. It is heavy even before the ride. You shrug your shoulders under it, testing its weight, finding its balance. It shifts with you, but not easily. You tighten the straps at the sides. One pulls too tight and cuts into your rib. You loosen it. You try again. It will never feel natural. But it must feel familiar. That is the goal. Not comfort, familiarity. A second skin, hard and indifferent. Your boots are last, tall, stiff, wrapped in wool at the calves. The soles are thick, made for stirrups, not roads. You stomp them against the earth, forcing your feet into alignment. They bite at your ankles. They will blister, but blisters do not matter here. They are expected. They are ignored. You wrap your hands in cloth. Gloves are rare. Most use strips of felt or hide, wrapped tightly, secured with leather knots. Your fingers still ache from the cold, but you begin to feel them again. A dull ache, not comfort. Enough to grip the reins, enough to hold a bow. Around your shoulders goes a final layer. A cloak, woolen, ragged at the hem. It is not for show. It is windbreak, shade, blanket, and barrier, all in one. You swing it over your back and fasten it at the throat. The clasp is bone, smooth from years of use. You are dressed now, but you do not feel ready. You feel contained, sealed, not like a warrior, but like a container of someone else's expectation. Your body is hidden, transformed. Nothing of you remains visible, not your skin, not your softness. This is not identity, it is function. You watch as the others move around you, their armor flexing with their steps, their clothing shifting like second nature. They do not adjust or tug or retie. Everything they wear fits because they know how to move within it. Their bodies have adapted, hardened, learned to breathe through layers that would choke others. Their sweat flows in silent lines beneath the wool and leather. They do not speak of heat or weight. To them, discomfort is not a condition. It is a background noise, present, ignored, expected. A man near you adjusts his quiver. It hangs over his back at an angle, within reach, but never in the way. You see the arrows inside, fletched with feathers, sharp-tipped, stained with use. Each one was made with purpose. Each one may soon leave him. Nothing is kept for beauty. If it does not serve, it is left behind. Another secures a helmet. It is not polished. It is not adorned. Iron, rounded, lined inside with coarse padding. A strip of fur at the base guards the nape. He slips it over his head and fastens it beneath his chin with one hand. The motion is smooth, rehearsed. His face is half hidden now. A mask of metal and dust. Only his eyes remain, scanning the horizon without urgency. You realize then that you are becoming unrecognizable, even to yourself. The layers hide your shape, your past, your expression. This is not clothing. It is submission to function, to order, to the expectation that the body is not a temple, but a tool. You try to shift your shoulders, and the armor resists. You try to breathe deeply, and the belt tightens at your ribs. Every movement is now moderated, calculated, measured through the filter of fabric and leather and iron. You lift your arm and feel the resistance of the scales beneath. When you bend your elbow, you can hear the soft brush of hardened pieces sliding over one another. Not loud, but always present. a whisper of weight, a reminder of what you carry, not just the armor, but the role it implies. You remember stories of soldiers in gleaming mail, of parades, of salutes. That is not this. There is no glory here, no uniform, only preparation, only survival. The armor you wear will never be seen in ceremony. It is not for display, it is for the fall from a horse, for the sudden crack of a bowstring, for the moment when instinct must replace thought. You see another rider rubbing oil into his boots. He doesn't do it quickly, but efficiently. The motion is small, deliberate. These boots have walked hundreds of miles, climbed ridges, pressed against the bellies of galloping horses. They will walk more. The oil keeps the leather soft, prevents cracking, keeps water from seeping in. Maintenance here is not a chore, it is survival. Your fingers fumble with the strap of your gauntlet. It won't close. You try again. The leather is stiff. The wind pulls at your cloak. You sense eyes watching, not critically, but quietly. You manage to fasten the loop. It holds barely. No one speaks. You move on. Now fully dressed, you walk slowly toward your horse. It watches you without expression. Its saddle is already prepared, its harness tight, its legs shifting with mild impatience. You mount with difficulty, armor pressing against your thighs, your hips, your spine. The cloak bunches beneath you. You adjust again, trying to find balance. When you are finally seated, you feel less like a rider and more like a passenger. You do not command the horse, you accompany it. You grip the reins, feel the chafing leather against your palm. You pull gently, unsure of what signal you are sending. The horse responds anyway, out of habit more than understanding. You begin to ride, slowly. At first, the others are already in motion. Their horses fall into formation without prompt. Their bodies shift in time with the movement of the animals, like wind through tall grass. You do not match their grace. Your armor shifts at every turn, pulling your shoulders, resisting your pace. You bounce in the saddle, every jolt echoing through your joints. Still you ride. Not well, not fast, but forward. That is enough. No one turns to watch. No one mocks. This world does not mock. It expects. It observes. And it waits. You feel sweat forming beneath the silk, beneath the wool. Even in this cold, your chest tightens under the pressure of the belt. You shift your weight, adjust your position. You grip the saddle horn and exhale through your nose. There is no comfort to be found, but there is rhythm, and rhythm slowly becomes something like endurance. You think of how each piece of your clothing was chosen, not by you but for you, by the needs of a life you barely understand, a life that does not honor softness, that does not pause for breath, that measures time in miles, not in minutes, in distance, not in comfort. The cloak flaps behind you. The reins pull at your palms. Your boots bite into your calves. Your chest rises and falls beneath layers of wool and skin and iron, and still you ride, because you must. Because that is what is done. And in that motion, in that silent, breathless, endless ride, you begin to understand why this clothing is not just protection. It is transformation. It is disappearance. It is the slow erasure of the self beneath function, beneath necessity. You do not dress like a warrior. You are dressed by the expectations of a world that does not bend. And in wearing its weight, you begin to feel it settle in your bones. A presence, a burden, a second skin. The group begins to speed up, not a gallop, not yet, but a steady trot that forces your body into new patterns. You feel the rise and fall in your knees, the shift of the saddle under you, the tug of your belt with each bounce. Your armor groans with movement, metal and leather whispering complaints against every joint. But you do not stop. You adapt, not by mastering it, but by letting go of the desire to feel natural. Your eyes burn from the wind. Your lips are cracked. You taste the dry cold, feel the dryness travel through your throat. You blink slowly, watching the man in front of you. His back is straight, his bow tied across it, His cloak ripples, but his balance never shifts. He has done this every day, for years, you can tell. His body is not resisting the motion. It is part of it. You realize that one day, maybe, your body will stop resisting too, that you will move inside this armor, as though it were your own skin, that your cloak will flap, your boots will bite, and you will not notice. Not because the pain is gone, but because you have become something else. Not a man inside clothing, but a figure inside the horde. You grip the reins again and press your knees tighter into the saddle. The horse adjusts. You sway. You remain seated. You are no longer dressing yourself. You are disappearing into function. And as the plains stretch wide before you and the sky presses down, you begin to understand the quiet truth, hidden in every seam, every knot, every buckle. This is not armor. This is obedience. And to wear it fully is to surrender the self and become what the horde requires. The pace continues. Your body shifts in subtle rhythm now, not because you've mastered the saddle, but because the horse has adjusted to you. It does not resist your clumsy posture. It compensates. It moves not for your benefit, but for its own efficiency. You are cargo, thinking cargo perhaps, but cargo nonetheless. Your comfort is not its priority. Stability is. The rider ahead taps his horse gently, a subtle signal. It speeds up. You try the same, pressing your heel with cautious pressure. The horse obeys, or simply continues. You cannot tell. The moment is wordless, without ceremony, just the shared forward movement across open earth. As the day stretches forward, your layers begin to press differently. What was stiff now feels soaked. The silk clings with dampness. The wool itches beneath the armor. You cannot remove anything. There is no pause for comfort. Even the thought of disrobing feels absurd, as if removing protection would be a kind of offense against the discipline of the horde. You notice now how few adjustments anyone makes. No one stops to fix a buckle. No one fidgets. Their clothing, their gear. It is not just worn, it is integrated. Their bodies move within it as naturally as your breath moves through your chest. You are still separate from yours, still aware of every seam, every knot, every edge, but you are still riding. And that matters. You have not fallen behind. You have not asked for help. You have not spoken. These are victories here, small, quiet ones. Markers of acceptance that will not be acknowledged, but will be remembered. Eventually, a rider falls back beside you. He looks at your cloak, then your reins, then your boots. He says nothing, but his gaze lingers. Then he rides ahead again. It is not judgment, it is recording, cataloging what you have, what you lack, what might need correcting. The horde trains itself, constantly, silently. You shift in your saddle once more. The chafing continues. The bite of leather at the crook of your knee. The pressure at your shoulders. But your spine stays straight. Your hands stay still. You are still in the formation, still inside the rhythm. That is what it means to be dressed as a warrior here. Not the presence of armor, but the absence of complaint. Not the fit of your cloak, but your place in the line. You do not wear the clothing. The clothing wears you down, until you are no longer a person inside it, but a movement within it. And at last, as the wind carries the smell of wood smoke again far ahead, signaling the next camp, you understand. You have made it through one day, one long riding day inside the shell of someone else's expectations. You are not comfortable. You are not proud, but you are still moving. And here, that is everything. Chapter 4. The horse, the lifeline. The horse is not a companion. It is not a pet. It is not your friend. It is breath and bone, motion and memory. A living piece of the land that knows more of this world than you do. Before you even touch the reins, the horse knows who you are, or rather, who you are not. It feels your hesitation. It smells your uncertainty. It hears your steps, not with its ears, but with the ground beneath it. You approach slowly, because you must, not because the horse is afraid. but because it isn't. And that is what unsettles you. Its stillness is not submission, it is evaluation. It does not fidget or shy away, it waits, as if testing you before you reach out. Its nostrils flare softly, its ears turn and still. It waits. You rest your hand on its neck. The hair is short, thick, coarse. Beneath it is warmth, steady and solid. The skin twitches slightly. A casual dismissal of your presence, not rejection, indifference. The horse stands as it has stood 1,000 times before. It does not recognize you. It recognizes the moment, and it behaves accordingly. The saddle is already secured, a narrow wooden frame covered in leather, padded with layers of felt and cloth, not for your comfort, but for endurance. The saddle has molded itself to the horse. You must mold yourself to both. You test the stirrups, short, high, designed for speed, not ease. You mount, awkward again, armor scraping, boots stiff. The horse does not move. It does not care. It does not need you to be graceful, only balanced. From this height, the world opens again. The wind is sharper, the horizon broader. You feel the horse shift beneath you, one side to the other, settling your weight. A signal passes between you. Not emotion, not thought, just gravity, shared. The others are mounting too. There are no commands, no whistles, just motion. A ripple of preparation, hooves stomping the ground, tails flicking, voices low. And then the line begins to move. You begin to feel it now. How the horse moves with the land, not over it. Each step is measured, never hurried. Its hooves seek firmness with instinct, navigating ruts and stones without a stumble. The animal does not require direction. It does not need commands shouted from above. It understands the steppe, perhaps more deeply than the men who ride it. You are the one learning. The horse is merely remembering. Its body radiates heat, more consistent than any fire. The warmth travels through your legs, into your bones. As the sun rises and the chill lifts, you begin to sweat beneath your armor. But the horse remains calm. Its ears shift gently in every direction, mapping the space. It snorts once, then settles back into the rhythm. You notice the way its back moves, up and down, side to side, not jarring, not rough, but alive. And your body over time stops resisting. Your spine loosens, your hips find a center. The saddle still rubs, the stirrups still bite, but you sway with the motion now, not against it. Nearby, a younger rider whistles once. His horse breaks into a canter, closing a gap in the line. The movement is smooth. The boy barely moves. His body is an extension of the animal beneath him. You feel clumsy in comparison, but you stay upright, and that is enough. You begin to understand the Mongol bond with horses. It is not sentiment, it is reliance. A child learns to ride before they learn to walk without stumbling. They drink the mare's milk. They name their mounts, but they do not speak to them as equals. They care for them, feed them, groom them, not out of love, but out of necessity. Without horses, the horde does not exist. Without horses, the land is too wide, the wind too cruel. You remember watching earlier, when a rider removed the saddle from his steed, rubbed its back with cloth, then offered it a salted chunk of lard. The horse accepted without flinching. It trusted the hand that gave and the command that led. Trust, here, is built in sweat and distance, not in words. The horse beneath you begins to slow. You shift your weight forward, uncertain. It lifts its head slightly. You hear the reason, a stream ahead, narrow but fast. Without command, the horse steps into the water, feeling its way across the stones. You grip the reins tighter, but the horse needs no help. It walks, calmly, purposefully. The water reaches the stirrups and splashes against your boots. Cold, sharp, but brief, and then you are across. You glance back at the stream. Others are already crossing. Their horses take different paths, none identical, and yet all reach the other side. The riders do not look down. They do not panic. They have done this before. Hundreds of times. The sun is higher now. The steppe reveals more of itself. Distant hills, low trees bent by constant wind, patches of grazing land. Your horse begins to chew on something it found by the roadside. You let it. It knows what it can eat. You don't. Riding continues in silence. The herd moves together, hooves beating a soft cadence across the land. No dust rises. The ground is damp. No birds cry. The sky is still. And in this quiet, you feel a kind of peace you did not expect. Not comfort, but rhythm, something deeper than calm. A belonging you haven't earned, but have momentarily entered. You realize that every horse carries more than a rider. It carries history, territory, culture. The legacy of nomads who do not tether themselves to place, but to motion, who trust what moves more than what stands. The horde does not stay anywhere. It gathers, rides, camps, folds, and disappears. The horses are the only constant. They do not protest the change. They do not fear the distance. They live it, and you, now halfway through your ride, feel the truth of it settling in your bones. You are not leading this animal. You are learning from it. How to endure, how to move, how to listen to the land beneath your feet. The horse does not speak, but it teaches. And if you wish to last another day in the Mongol Horde, you must listen. Later, when the line slows and riders begin to circle the halted carts, your horse doesn't wait for instruction. It walks toward a clear patch of ground, lowers its head, and begins to graze. The saddle creaks as you dismount, stiffly. Your legs are numb, your feet throb, your hands ache from gripping the reins too tightly, and yet the horse stands still, breathing heavily, but not loudly. You remove its bit, stroke its damp neck. The skin twitches again. Not irritation, just response. It accepts your touch, not with affection, but with tolerance. That too is a step forward. Someone passes behind you. A young boy leading 3 more horses by thin ropes. One has a wound on its leg, tightly wrapped in cloth. The boy does not speak to the horses. He does not call their names. He leads them as if they are part of him. The horses do not resist. They follow not because of fear, but because of familiarity. You kneel and remove one strap of your horse's harness, then another. Your fingers fumble with the knot. The horse flicks its tail, patient. You drop the last strap and step back. The animal shakes itself once, a great fluttering of muscle and hide and dust. Then it lowers its head again, grazing with the same slow rhythm as before. In the distance, a cluster of horses rest untethered near a water trough. No fencing, no barriers. They stay because they know the riders will return. They do not run. They do not scatter. Freedom means something different here. It means return. It means trust. You realize now that these animals are not just mounts. They are maps. Every step they take traces, a memory. Every path they follow has been traveled before. Not by cart, not by wheel, but by hoof. They carry the knowledge of routes, of grazing places, of storms avoided and battles survived. And they do not forget. The sun begins to dip, and your horse lifts its head. Its ears flick toward the sound of fire being lit. Without a word, without a pull, it begins to move. You follow, limping slightly. You're not sure if it knows where to go, but it walks with such certainty that you do not question. At the edge of the new camp, the horse stops. It waits. You tie the reins to a post. Gently, not tightly. There is no need. It will stay. You remove your cloak and lay it across its back. You brush the dust from its side with your palm. A soft grunt, acknowledgement, not complaint. In that moment, you feel something settle, not affection, not pride, but recognition. You are not a horseman, but for this one day, you were not only a burden. You did not fall. You did not cause trouble. You endured, and in the language of the Mongol Horde, that is the beginning of trust. The horse lowers its head again and begins to graze, and you, still aching, still unsure, remain by its side, silent, still, a student of the only teacher that needs no words. For tomorrow, you will ride again. As twilight settles across the steppe, you watch your horse from a few paces away. It stands quietly, side to the wind, its breath slow and visible in the cooling air. Its eyes are half closed, but it is not sleeping. It is listening to the camp, to the earth, to sounds you haven't even noticed. Around you, other horses do the same. Some lay down, others remain upright, resting one leg, heads low, no ropes, no restraints, and still they do not wander. They know this place, not by name, but by rhythm, by scent, by sky. You sit nearby, arms wrapped around your knees, exhausted in a way that stretches beyond the body. You no longer feel the pinch of the boots or the scrape of the saddle. Instead, you feel something deeper, a quiet shift, a settling. The day is behind you, and somehow you remained in motion. That is all the Horde asks, that you move, that you endure, that you remain part of the line. The horse turns its head once more toward you, just a glance, then returns to its stillness. It does not speak, but the message is clear. You did not fall, and tomorrow you will ride again. You begin to stretch your legs, slow and careful, as darkness swells across the plain. Nearby, another rider walks past, leading his mount by the reins. The animal follows not out of command, but routine. The bond between them is worn into the shape of their movement. They stop in unison, breathe in, unison. No instructions are given, none are needed. You rise again and brush your hands across your coat. The chill deepens, and yet your body now knows how to stand against it. You've learned it from the horse, from its stillness, from its breathing, from its refusal to retreat. It does not flinch from cold. It does not rush from wind. It remains, and in that stillness you realize the horse does not follow you. You follow it into a new pattern of endurance, into a discipline that does not speak, but expects, into a silence that is louder than any command. When the fire crackles and bowls of broth begin to pass from hand to hand, you do not leave the horse, not yet. You stand with it, breathing in time, listening to the grass move under its hooves. You wait until it finishes chewing, until it shifts its weight. Then, and only then, do you turn toward the camp. The day is over, the bond is forming, and if you are to survive tomorrow, it will begin once again in the rhythm of hooves against earth. Because here, in this place, the horse is not a part of the journey, it is the journey itself. Chapter 5. Mobility is survival. The Mongol camp does not wake, it shifts, it breathes in its sleep, and before the sun lifts fully above the horizon, it has already begun to dissolve. No horn sounds, no voices shout, but hands are moving, ropes are loosened, carts are drawn into rows, yurts fold like memory, compact, practiced, efficient. The routine is older than any single man alive. It is remembered in fingers, not minds. You rise with stiffness in your back. The wind is colder than yesterday. You blink into it, lips dry, eyelids heavy. But there is no time for slowness, no time for aches. Everything here moves, and if you do not move with it, you will be left behind. Mobility here is not strategy, it is survival. It is the very language of life. The land does not give gifts, it demands motion. The grass offers no shelter, the sky provides no shade. If you remain in one place too long, you are punished, not by people, but by nature itself. The storm, the drought, the famine, they visit the still, not the moving. The carts creak into position. They are not modern wagons, but ancient, wooden, iron-capped, wrapped in leather. They groan under weight, but they do not fail. Each cart has seen hundreds of miles, and still it rolls. A boy lifts a bundle half his size and heaves it into one. No complaint, only effort. The herd begins to gather, not just horses, sheep, goats, oxen, all tethered loosely. moving with the wind, not against it. They are not driven. They follow. They know the rhythm. They too are nomads. You begin to help. You lift bundles, tighten knots, stack supplies. Your hands fumble at first, but you repeat what you have seen. A woman ties her cart, and you mirror her knots. A man wraps a hide tarp over tools, and you do the same. No one teaches. You simply learn, or you vanish. Soon the camp becomes less a village and more a memory. What was once a ring of homes is now a scattering of paths in the grass. The flattened ground bears the shape of the yurts for a moment longer, but even that will disappear by midday. Nothing here lingers. Nothing here wishes to be permanent. You walk with a small group of riders as the train begins to move. The carts roll slowly. The horses fall into their places without signal. A dog trots along the outer line, occasionally circling back, weaving through hooves and boots and wheels, as though pulled by unseen thread. No one guides it. It knows. The riders are alert but relaxed. Their eyes scan the edge of the horizon. They do not speak, but the movement between them is alive. This one pulls ahead, that one slows. A signal passes in a glance. You try to read it, but the language is still foreign. Not because it is complicated, but because it is so old, it has forgotten how to explain itself. Every step matters. Every placement of wheel, of hoof, of boot, all part of a larger pulse. You feel it building as you walk. You feel it behind your knees, at the base of your skull, the drumbeat of nomadic life. Not loud, not musical, but ever present. In the west, a dust line appears, a second column perhaps, or scouts returning. No alarm is raised. Riders turn their heads. One breaks formation and rides toward it. You watch as he moves, his horse quick but steady, his body poised like an extension of the air itself. When he returns, no words are spoken. He shakes his head once. The dust fades. The column continues. Nothing is changed, but the movement never stopped. It never will. By midday, the sun sits high and harsh. There are no trees, no shadows, only the long open reach of the land. The steppe does not bend. It stretches endlessly, not with grandeur, but with quiet stubbornness. Your boots grow heavy with dust. Your tongue sticks to your teeth, but no one stops. No one looks back. Water is rationed carefully. A sip, then a pause, then nothing. The carts groan, but roll on. The horses walk steadily. Even the children say nothing. A small boy walks barefoot beside his mother. She carries nothing but a long stick for guiding animals. She wears the same expression as everyone else. Fixed, forward, unbothered. You begin to understand what it means to belong here. Not through title, not through strength, but through motion. To stop is to fracture the whole. To move is to be part of it. This is not a life of isolation. It is a life of alignment. And so you walk, one foot, then the other. Hours pass. You lose count of them. There are no milestones, no road markers, just the sky, just the land, just the dust, and the quiet that rides on top of it. When the group slows near a low ridge, you are thankful. The horses are checked. Some graze. One lies down, legs tucked under. Riders dismount without hurry. Tools are passed around. Wheels checked. Leathers tightened. Again, no orders, no ceremony, just action. Mobility here is not about speed. It is about readiness. The readiness to change, to react, to leave everything behind at a moment's notice. You ask nothing. You mimic. You adjust your strap. You check your belt. You pat the side of your horse, as you've seen the others do. And for a moment, no one corrects you. That, here, is permission enough. Evening edges in slowly. You feel the weight in your thighs, in your shoulders. But the horde keeps moving. Because the land does, and survival here is not in shelter. It is in flow. The night arrives not with ceremony, but with soft insistence. The sky turns a deep, flat blue before surrendering to black. There is no flicker of urban light, No lanterns lining streets. The only illumination comes from small campfires, carefully spaced, their light flickering low against bowls and hands and eyes. You sit cross-legged beside one. The fire is not warm enough for comfort, but it offers companionship. Around you, riders eat in silence. They share food not with invitation, but with gesture. A slice of dried meat, a handful of millet, a boiled bone passed wordlessly into your palm. You nod, not because you're thankful, though you are, but because that is all that's needed here. No one tells stories, no one sings, not tonight. The day was long, and the next will be longer. Rest is the ritual now. And like everything in this world, it is done not casually, but with purpose. Boots are removed, carefully. Saddles are turned, blankets rolled out thin and tight against the earth. The fires burn low, not from neglect, but control. You lay back, arms behind your head, more than you've ever seen. And each one seems to breathe. The sky is alive, not above you, but around you. As if the stars are not distant, but listening, watching. In the quiet, you hear the sound of hooves, not running, but shifting. Horses adjusting their stance in the dark. A low whinny, the clink of a bridle. You find comfort in it, not because it means safety, but because it means motion is waiting. Even in stillness, the horde is ready. You close your eyes, not because you are finished, but because that is the only pause you are permitted. In a few hours, the sky will grey again. The fire will crackle once more, and the wheels will turn. Not because anyone commands it, but because it must. Because motion here is not an act. It is a condition of survival. You awaken not from a dream, but from the quiet pressure of reality. The grass is damp beneath your blanket. The sky above is not yet light, but no longer dark. A deep pre-dawn blue, the color of transition. The horde, like the land, is already stirring. There is no alarm, no summons, just shapes moving in the early haze. You sit up slowly, your back tight from the night, but your limbs remember the order. Fold your blanket, pack the gear, cinch the belt. These motions now belong to you, not because they were taught, but because they were absorbed. Across the camp, steam rises from the mouths of horses. One stomps gently at the earth. Another exhales sharply, fog puffing like a signal. They are already saddled, their riders already mounted. You are not the first to rise. You are never the first to rise. Breakfast, if it can be called that, is minimal. A scrap of bread, a sip of broth. No conversation. The body is not fed here for indulgence, but to preserve motion. What matters is not fullness, but readiness. Soon, the great wave begins again. The wheels creak, hooves fall in rhythm. Dogs bark once, then fall into their places. The sun peeks over the horizon, like a reluctant witness. The steppe greets it with no applause, and you move. Again, forward, always forward, because here, to remain is to perish. The land does not forgive the still. Its kindness, if it can be called that, is reserved for those who understand this one sacred truth. Movement is life. You think now, not in hours or miles, but in the cadence of walking, in the steady crunch of dust beneath leather, in the way your shadow stretches, shrinks, then fades as the day unfolds. The landscape remains unchanged, but you know it now, not as scenery, but as language. Each dip, each ridge, each distant line of hills, it speaks to you, in quiet syllables of survival. Around midday, you stop beneath a ridge. The wind has picked up, dry, and carrying the scent of something far away. Fire, perhaps, or simply the sun cracking old soil. The carts form a half circle, not for protection, but for efficiency. Animals are unhitched and allowed to graze. Riders dismount without fanfare, and you do the same. Your body knows now how to move without command. You drink slowly, carefully, from a leather skin passed down the line. The water is warm, but welcome. A girl not older than 10 offers you a strip of meat. You nod again, your only thanks, and she moves on. You sit in the shadow of a wheel, not because it's comfortable, but because it's quiet. Around you, men and women tend to leather, mend ropes, adjust stirrups. Children gather stones. A mother braids her son's hair tightly against his scalp. All things done in motion, all done while waiting for the next motion. In this moment, you feel something strange, not fear, not comfort, but something deeper. A stillness that belongs to motion, because the horde does not stop to rest. It stops to continue. This too is survival. The sun begins to dip, not rapidly, but steadily. Fires are started again, quiet ones. Meat is smoked, bones boiled, not for feasting, but for fuel. Everything here is fuel. Words, time, gestures, all must serve the march. As darkness folds over the steppe, once more you lie back again, and your body aches in places you didn't know existed. But it is a different ache now, not one of injury, one of change. The kind of ache that means you are no longer who you were. Tomorrow you will rise before the sun. You will fold your blanket before you're told. You will step in rhythm before anyone calls the pace. And in that, you will survive. And so, as your eyes close beneath the canopy of stars, you no longer wonder if you belong here. You no longer calculate the distance traveled or the time endured. You understand now that survival in the Mongol Horde is not about strength, speed, or heritage. It is about rhythm, about moving when the world tells you to move, about becoming small enough to be carried by something far larger than yourself. In this world, motion is memory, it is culture, it is faith. And in learning to move without question, you have not only survived, you have become part of something eternal. Chapter 6. Hunger and Hierarchy. The wind today carries a different weight. It's drier, sharper, filled with the scent of dust and distant smoke. The horizon, always flat, now seems to shimmer, not with heat, but with waiting. You've walked for hours already, and the camp is just beginning to slow. Hunger is no longer an idea. It's a sensation that hums in your bones. Your stomach doesn't rumble. It compresses, quietly, persistently. The morning offered little, a few scraps of dried curds, a single sip of fermented milk. No one complained, because here, hunger is not a surprise. It is part of the rhythm. As the carts circle again, and fires are prepared, you notice how deliberate everything is. Nothing is wasted, nothing done without cause. A sheep is pulled from the herd, not the weakest, but one chosen by the older riders. It does not resist. It does not run, and neither do you. You watch as it is laid gently on its side, eyes covered, throat bared to the steel. The cut is swift, clean, final. There are no cheers, no ritual chants, only quiet work. The blood is collected in a worn wooden bowl, organs removed with careful precision. Meat is sliced, not chopped, laid out on stretched leather to dry before it's even cooked. Every tendon, every drop of fat has a purpose, and the fire, already burning low, begins to crackle with new life. You are offered a piece, small, seared on the blade of a sword over the flames. It tastes like survival, not rich, not filling, but necessary. You chew slowly. Around you, others do the same. No words are spoken. When the meal ends, the mood does not change. There is no laughter, no drowsy satisfaction. The riders return to tasks. Tools are checked. Hooves scraped clean. Ropes are tightened along the carts. Children begin sorting horsehair and sinew, weaving cords under the soft light. You start to notice the rhythm behind the quiet. Not everything is equal. Not every voice holds the same weight. There are subtle nods, brief glances, unspoken orders. An older man shifts his stance, and 3 riders change direction. A woman sharpens a blade, and the boy beside her holds still without being told. Hierarchy is everywhere, yet invisible. There are no badges, no ranks spoken aloud, but everyone knows who decides when the camp moves, when it halts, who eats first, who speaks last. Leadership here isn't loud, it's woven into movement. You try to understand where you belong. You're not the lowest. The dogs and children earn more place than you for now. But you're learning. One man gestures for you to help lift a leather saddle. And when you do, he says nothing, just nods. Later, you're handed a strip of meat without request. Another small signal, you're being watched. You're being measured by sunset. The clouds have gathered, not thick, but high and quiet. The smell of distant rain lingers. A few riders ride out ahead, scanning the ridgeline. Not every night is for sleeping. Some are for listening. As darkness folds itself around the camp once again, you notice the division of space. Not everyone sleeps in the same circle. The elders form a quieter core. Their fires are smaller, their voices lower, their silhouettes familiar to each other. The younger riders linger farther out, closer to the horses, closer to the edge. You're placed somewhere between, a neutral ground where you can observe, not disturb. From here you can hear the different tones of leadership. A cough, followed by movement. A single word followed by 3 more hands on a saddle. The language of order is not built on volume. It's built on weight, the weight of presence. You lie down and watch the flames dance low. Hunger dulls but never disappears. It sleeps with you. Beneath the stars, your dreams flicker in fragments. A horse turning, a knife being sharpened, a map drawn in the dirt with a finger. You are no longer dreaming in your old tongue. You are dreaming in motion. Morning comes again without color. The fire is rekindled. Not everyone eats. Some fast by choice, some by rule. The hierarchy has subtleties you still do not understand, but you accept them. You have to. The system is not explained. It is lived, and if you follow it well enough, it begins to fold you in. Later that day, you're given a task. Fetch water from a stream 3 hills away. You go with 2 others. One speaks rarely, the other not at all. They ride. You walk. This is not punishment, it is position. The journey to the stream is long and dry. Your boots kick up small clouds with every step. The riders ahead of you don't turn around. Don't speak. Don't slow. You do not expect them to. The Mongol Horde teaches you to follow without need for reassurance. The stream is thin, barely more than a trickle over polished stones, but it is precious. You fill the skins carefully, silently. One of the riders ties the lids tightly. The other surveys the hills. You realize this isn't just water collection. It's practice, it's exposure, it's measurement. The walk back is slower. The weight of the water digs into your shoulders. The sun stares without blinking. Sweat collects at the base of your neck. But you do not stop. Not once, because you know what this means. Someone is watching. Maybe not directly, but always, someone is watching. When you return, you hand the water over without being asked. There is no praise, no nod, but the same rider who ignored you earlier now passes you a folded cloth. Clean, dry, yours. A token, not of friendship, but of inclusion. The smallest thread in the braid. That night, as the camp settles, you find your place a little closer to the fire, not in the center, not among leaders, but not alone either. Your hunger is quieter, your rest deeper, and the rhythm of hierarchy, once invisible, now pulses around you, not as burden, but as belonging. In the days that follow, the pattern repeats, not like a cycle, but like breathing. Some mornings you are given meat before others. Some nights you are allowed closer to the maps being scratched into dirt. You are not told you belong, but you are not told to move away. You learn to read the shape of silence, to recognize which glances mean stay and which mean leave. You learn that a shared water skin is not a courtesy, but a quiet test. That being trusted with rope is more important than being trusted with words. One afternoon, a young boy stumbles while carrying a bow. It lands crooked, string snapped. You expect anger, reprimand, but the elder only squats down, picks up the bow, and hands the broken pieces to you. No words, no scolding. A test. You walk to the leather worker's cart and offer it forward. He He nods, repairs it, and hands it back. No one claps, but the boy looks at you differently. Hunger does not leave you, not truly, but it transforms. It becomes part of your perception, not something you fear, but something that helps you sense direction. You begin to feel when food is coming, when a task is near, when silence is required. And one night, when the wind turns and rain is heard over the southern stones, you are told, softly, to carry a message, not to a chief, not to a warrior, to a woman who carries parchment and twine, who maps in circles and symbols. You carry it without breaking stride. She reads it, says nothing, and the next day you find your place closer to her fire. Hierarchy here is not a ladder, it is a spiral, one that turns slowly inward, only if you remain steady, only if you learn when to speak and when to ride, only if you understand that in this world, hunger is not a punishment, it is a condition of being shaped. Another week passes. The terrain grows harsher, the wind colder, and your tasks more frequent. You no longer question the requests made of you, to fetch, to hold, to observe. Sometimes, simply to wait in silence near the horses. That too has its purpose. You see a boy scolded not for failing a task, but for asking too many questions. You realize that here, inquiry is not always seen as eagerness. It can be mistrust. The wise observe, the wiser still interpret. During one evening break, you're invited, without words, without gesture, to stand beside a figure you've only seen from a distance. A man whose braid is wrapped in blue cord. You recognize him not by name, but by the way others shift slightly as he passes. He looks at you only once, then he looks away. That is enough. You've been seen. The food is the same. The pace is the same. But your experience of both is not. You are learning the hidden layers of nourishment and exhaustion. How a sip of fermented milk tastes different when passed from another's hand. How a full stomach is never full unless your work is acknowledged. The hierarchy does not demand that you rise, only that you endure, that you align, that you become part of the invisible thread that ties one rider to the next, one silence to the next command. By now you have forgotten your former clocks. Your memories come in the form of scents, like cooked horse meat or leather soaked in sweat. Your nights are marked not by dreams, but by how close your bedroll lies to others. The closer, the warmer. The warmer, the more trusted. On the final day of this chapter, the sky is an iron gray, and yet you are calm. Not because you feel safe, but because you now know what danger feels like. And this is not it. This is order. This is belonging, earned through repetition. You no longer ask how long this life will last. You only ask what it requires next. Later that evening, as the fires crackle low and the stars blink into view like cautious watchers, you sit alone with a worn piece of hide. There is nothing written on it. No map, no instruction, just space. But you find yourself tracing the day's steps on its surface, not with ink, but with memory. You trace the walk to the stream, the sharpness of the rocks, the weight of silence. You mark the moment the boy dropped the bow, the way the elder placed it in your hands. You etch the sound of flint striking flint, the breathless moment before flame. You are learning that hierarchy here is not about control, it is about continuity. It is a long, unbroken line that passes through every hand, every footstep, every task. You are not rising above others. You are weaving into something larger. As you finish your tracing, someone walks past and pauses. They look down, see nothing on the hide, and move on. But you know what's there. Not words, not drawings, just understanding, your understanding. And in the silence that follows, you finally feel the hunger recede. Not because you are full, but because you are fed. Fed by purpose, fed by pattern, fed by a place in the rhythm. The horde prepares to move again. The riders do not shout. The scouts do not report loudly. But the shift is felt, in posture, in breath, in the way horses lift their heads. And when you rise to join them, no one stops you. No one tells you what to do. Because now, you already know. The next morning arrives not with a horn or a shout, but with the creak of saddles, the slow rattle of hooves, the scrape of fire embers pushed aside. You rise with the others. Not because you're called, but because you're ready. You wrap your cloak with practiced hands, secure your boots, adjust the strap of your pouch, and as you lift yourself onto the cart beside the others, one rider glances back at you. There's no nod, no grin, but they do not ask why you are there, because now you are. And just like that, the horde begins to move. Not in formation, not in a flurry, but in rhythm, and you move with it. Chapter 7. Fear, Fire, and the First Battle. The land stretches wider now, flatter and more open than before. Like a canvas waiting for blood, the birds have grown quiet. Even the wind feels more cautious. You don't know where the battle will happen, only that it will. The camp does not speak of it loudly. There are no speeches, no clanging armor, but everything changes. Riders sharpen blades that haven't been used in days. Horse hooves are oiled, not for care but for silence. Bows are restrung, arrows are sorted by length, tip, and weight. And you are given no weapon. You are told only to follow, to carry, to wait. The sky that morning is grey, not stormy, but sullen, as if the clouds themselves do not wish to witness what is coming. You mount a cart behind 3 others, all silent. The wheels creak less than usual. Even the animals move with careful weight. Fear arrives not as panic, but as stillness. You find yourself checking the strap of your boot 3 times. You breathe slower, not by intention, but by necessity. Everything feels like it must last longer. Your breath, your water, your thoughts. When you crest the final hill, you see the other camp. Tiny in the distance, smoke barely rising, but you know what it is, what they are. You don't know their names, their flags, their grievances. All you know is that they are not you, and that soon your world will meet theirs. The moment before battle is not what you expected. No shouting, no fire, no rousing chants, or striking of shields. The riders kneel by their horses, heads bowed, not in prayer but in focus. This is not about gods. This is about rhythm. You're handed a bundle, not a weapon, but cloth, medicine, and twine. Your role is not to fight, but to follow, to mend, to recover. It's not shameful. It's essential. The horde survives not just by killing, but by enduring. When they ride out, it's like watching a wave rise from still water. The sound of hooves swells from silence to thunder in a breath. You stay behind, as instructed, but the echo of their motion remains in your chest, long after they disappear beyond the ridge. Then comes the smoke, the dust, and the distant cries, not of fear, but of effort. War here is not chaos, it is precision. The Mongols do not clash, they surround. They do not roar, they whistle, click, and signal with flags and flashes. You are summoned after what feels like forever. The wounded are returning, some upright, some slumped. You run with a water skin, a strip of hide, a calmness you didn't know you had. You press cloth to wounds, hold hands without knowing whose they are. Blood becomes familiar, not frightening. One man, unconscious, still holds his bow. His grip must be broken gently to clean the wound. You do it without gagging, without panic, not because you are brave, but because there is no other option. You learn more in that hour than in your entire past life. Where to press to stop the bleeding, how to whisper even when your hands are shaking, how to pretend you know what to do until your hands remember it for you. As night falls, the battlefield cools, but the memory of heat lingers. The wounded rest in clusters, bundled under cloaks and silence. You sit by a fire that is not yours, with hands that will not stop trembling, but no one mocks you, no one speaks. This too is part of the pattern. You find yourself beside an older woman. Her face is lined with more than age, with wisdom carved from winters and ashes. She teaches you how to pack ash into wounds, how to split bark for boiling, how to measure fever with a single press of your palm. You ask no questions, not because you are forbidden, but because answers are already being given, through demonstration, through repetition, through presence. The night is not peaceful. Horses shift in the dark. Somewhere beyond the reach of firelight, someone coughs and does not stop. Yet you sleep, not well, but deeply, because your body understands now what your mind still fears. This is your world now. And survival is not about escape, it is about adaptation. By morning, the dead are counted, not allowed, not listed, but carried and covered. You help. You lift a leg, a shoulder, a name you do not know. And still you are not asked to leave. Still you are allowed to serve. That here is the only permission that matters. A new batch of riders arrives by noon. They wear different cloaks, speak a dialect you don't fully understand, yet they bow slightly as they pass. Not to you, but not past you either. You've become a fixture, not yet trusted with command, but no longer invisible. Later that day, a young warrior hands you a blade, not sharpened, not decorative, just heavy. You carry it all afternoon, not knowing if it is for you to keep. By dusk, it is taken back, not with anger, just a nod, as if to say, not yet, but maybe soon. The second night after battle is colder, not by temperature, but by memory. The things you saw will not fade. A torn shirt, a broken tooth, a man who died still clutching a strip of dried meat. You dream, but the dreams are thin, snapshots rather than stories. You wake with a start before dawn, not from fear, but from readiness. You don't know what you're expected to do next. You only know that you will do it. A scout motions to you in the blue-gray light. You follow without asking. You carry a satchel. You fetch water. You remain quiet. There is another skirmish. Smaller, faster. You see none of it directly, but the mood shifts again. A cart arrives with injured. This time you don't flinch. You work. Hands faster, words fewer. The older woman nods once. Briefly, it is the highest praise you will ever receive. By midday you are allowed to eat with the riders, not beside them but not behind either. Your bowl is not filled last. You are not spoken to, but one of them tosses a second strip of meat onto your plate. That is the new language of inclusion. Later you are called to sit with the mapmaker, a silent elder who rarely looks up. He does not speak, just shifts the map toward you, points. You nod, though you do not understand. This is not about comprehension. It is about capacity. You are being measured. You are sent to retrieve something from the camp's edge. It is not important. What? Only that you return. And you do, through wind, through distraction, through the weight of your own exhaustion. And when you return, no one says well done, but no one rechecks what you brought, either. That night, as the fire crackles, someone hands you a string of blackened beads. You do not know what they mean. You wear them anyway. The firelight dances on your hands, your arms, still trembling from work, still stained with dirt, but they do not shake from fear anymore. You now belong to something older than a name. You are not yet a warrior, not yet a scout, but you are part of the motion. You are the silence between signals, the breath between volleys, the glue that binds bodies to memory. And so the day ends, not with cheers, not with ceremony, but with slow steps, and a sky turning from dusk to dust. And in this quiet descent, you realize you have survived your first battle, not with glory, but with grace. As the next day dawns, a strange stillness drapes the camp, not the eerie kind, but one heavy with recovery. The fires burn low, as if not to wake the past. You rise early, again before command, and walk between the rows of bedrolls and broken tools. Nothing is said, but everything is understood. You help mend a saddle, not because you're asked, but because you remember how the leather tore mid-charge. You sweep ash from the healer's mat, not because it's your task, but because you saw her kneel there too long. These are now your instincts. Small repairs, silent service. Mid-morning brings a new rider, wounded but proud. His arm is wrapped with frayed linen, and his face is scratched by the edge of some long-forgotten blade. He limps toward you and asks not for help, but for your eyes, to see him still standing. You nod, and that is enough. Then comes the moment that changes everything. A commander gestures. You step forward, unsure. He speaks plainly. You are to ride with the next column, not as a warrior, not yet, but as an attendant, a follower of the rhythm. You do not smile, you do not bow. You simply ready yourself, because that is what is expected. You ride through a long valley where no battle waits, but memory lingers in the shape of old campfires, in the bones of forgotten carts. You are told to listen, not for enemies, but for the signs of disobedient weather, unsettled horses, uncertain earth. These are now your enemies. At camp that evening, you are permitted to sleep closer to the fire, a smaller circle, tighter, warmer, one where stories are not told, but simply known. You hear a cough, a quiet joke, a single verse hummed low. This is trust, not spoken, but shared. The next day, the sun rises red. Not a warning, not an omen, just a reminder that the land keeps turning, with or without you. But now, it turns with you. You've lived through your first encounter with fire and fear, not because you fought, but because you did not flee. You did not boast. You did not crumble. You adapted. And that in the Mongol Horde is its own kind of victory. And as the camp quiets once again beneath a sky scattered with soft stars, you lie back against your folded cloak and stare upward. You count no victories. There are no tallies in your favor, but you count the silence, and the way it no longer feels like absence. You feel the warmth of the fire and know you are not an intruder. You hear the low breath of horses and know their rhythm as your own. Tomorrow, you may carry a message. The day after, a spear. But tonight, you carry something far more lasting. The acceptance of a world that no longer sees you as foreign. The fear still lingers, but it no longer leads. The fire still burns, but it no longer blinds. And the battle, it still echoes. But now, it echoes through you. You have walked through the storm without shouting. You have stood in the noise without vanishing. You have learned, listened, adapted. And now, as you drift to sleep, your breath finds the rhythm of the horde itself, steady, enduring, unseen. And as the wind drifts gently through the low grass, you remember your first morning in the horde, how strange the language felt, how heavy the silence weighed, how foreign even your own body seemed. Now that morning feels distant, but not lost. You are no longer the same. The campfire's glow is no longer a boundary, it is your belonging. You feel the strain in your shoulders, the ache in your feet, the grit between your fingers, and they comfort you more than any soft bed ever did. This discomfort is your measure now. This ache is your progress. The faces around you blur in the half-light. You do not know all their names, but you know their presence. You know the tilt of their heads when they listen, the weight of their silence when they approve. You no longer seek explanation. You live through participation. And in this world where survival is not granted but earned, you close your eyes. Not in fear, not in hope, but in rhythm. Chapter 8. The Winter of Endurance. The first snow fell without ceremony. No drumbeat from the sky. No warning cry from the hills. Just a slow, whispering descent that blanketed the grasslands in a silent layer of white. For the untrained eye, it might have looked beautiful, serene even. But to the Mongol horde, it was a sign, a call to prepare. You stand in the cold, your breath curling in the air like smoke. The chill is sharp, but not yet unbearable. Others move around you, tightening ropes, stacking wood, tethering animals. No one speaks much. The winter demands focus. Your hands, still unaccustomed to this environment, fumble with knots and leather straps. You feel the sting as your fingers begin to numb. A grizzled rider passes and tightens your wrap without a word. He does not scold, he does not smile, he simply fixes the problem and moves on. By nightfall, the camp is tucked into the contours of the land. Tents slant low against the wind. Horses gather close. Warmth shared in silent communion. Fires are modest, not for heat, but for survival. You huddle close, drinking broth that tastes of bone and bark. Days blend quickly. You wake stiff, you move slowly. Tasks that once felt minor now drain your strength. Melting snow for water, repairing rains, scraping ice from hooves. Each task becomes a ritual, performed with care born not from discipline, but necessity. One morning, a man collapses from frostbite. No wails, no drama, just a body wrapped and set aside. You learn not to react. The horde moves forward, always forward. You begin to layer instinct over memory, a sense for when to add fur to your boots, when to keep your mouth closed against the wind, how to sleep sitting up. When the ground is too hard, too cold, too cruel, the sky remains grey. For days at a time, no sun, no stars, only a vast canopy of muted light. Time becomes harder to track. You measure it instead by fire cycles and frost patterns. How long it takes for a pot to freeze. How long it takes for numbness to creep up your toes. You watch the elders. They move less but better. Their gestures economical. Their speech rare. They waste no breath. You copy them. In time, your steps become smaller, your efforts more focused. You do not seek comfort anymore. You seek endurance. The horses begin to shed weight, not in hair, but in movement. They no longer gallop for sport. They conserve, just like the men, just like you. There is no shame in retreat, only in waste. The old warriors begin to show their worth, not in battles, but in building windbreaks, spotting cracks in ice, and choosing the direction of the tents. The sky becomes a study in grey, shades upon shades, a canvas of stillness. And yet the camp pulses, not with speed, but with method. Each act, from striking flint to feeding dogs, is a kind of meditation. You no longer think of comfort, only of continuity. You learn to eat roots soaked overnight, warmed only by breath and boiled snow. You no longer taste, you fuel. You do not feast, you endure. You are now counted among the necessary, not because of might, but because of presence. You can stitch a seam without complaint. You can ride for an hour and not fall. You can carry kindling and return with more than you left with. These things matter. One night, a man slips through ice. He is pulled out, not by command, but by reflex. You help strip his boots, wrap his feet in cloth, spoon broth between his lips. You don't know his name. That doesn't matter. Names don't preserve warmth. Action does. Days stretch longer in cold. Not in hours, but in feeling. A single task can take the strength of a day. You feel your breath more than your voice. You carry not just supplies, but the weight of shared struggle. There are fewer complaints. Not because there is less pain, but because every voice saved could stoke a fire longer. The youngest riders look to the elders now. Questions vanish. Observation rules. You begin to mirror movements, how they tie their boots, how they curl fingers inside fur gloves, how they drink water slowly to preserve warmth. The food rations change. Dried meat, boiled bark, fermented milk. You no longer judge. Hunger is not a weakness. It is a companion. You greet it daily and walk with it. Quietly. At night, you share tents, shoulder to shoulder. The body heat is shared currency. You listen to snoring, teeth chattering, occasional muttering in dream tongues. Each sound is oddly comforting. Proof of life, proof of presence. The commanders speak less now. Their orders come as gestures, or small phrases understood before uttered. The horde has become a single body, not fast, but bound. You are part of that weave now. When a storm comes, it is not a surprise. You've smelled it for days in the wind. You help lash down tents, move wagons, secure ropes. You do it all silently, not out of fear, but because efficiency is now a second language. One morning, the ice thaws ever so slightly. A sliver of water flows beneath the snow. The older riders do not cheer. They squint at the horizon. Spring is near, and that means movement, swift movement, and danger. The horde does not welcome the thaw as a blessing. It prepares for its burden: mud, flooding, shifting terrain. You are tasked with checking the pack animals' hooves, ensuring they haven't cracked. You do so carefully, with your breath fogging over the beast's flanks. You are assigned new duties: patching saddles, drying boots, rationing dried fish. No one praises you, but the fact that they trust you with these small acts is more than enough. You belong now, not because of title or blood, but because you have outlasted. And so the final days of winter are not marked by any single event, but by a collection of quiet changes. The way water no longer freezes solid overnight. The way your fingers flex more easily in the morning. The way the horses no longer huddle so tightly. There are no horns, no banners raised, no feasts to celebrate survival. Just a slow exhale shared by the whole camp. A shared knowledge we endured, not by conquering the cold, but by respecting it. That night, as the last frost clings to the canvas of your tent, you lie awake listening, not to threats, not to alarms, but to stillness. The kind of stillness that only follows months of motion, hardship, and perseverance. There is no victory to announce, no triumph to toast, only this breath, this moment, this sense of having passed through something vast and unseen. And that is what winter teaches most of all. Not how to fight, but how to last. And in that quiet endurance, you discover the root of strength. In the days that follow the final frost, life begins to return to the steppe, but not in the way you once remembered it. Each blade of grass that pokes through the slush is like a memory slowly restored. The air smells different now, tinged not only with thaw, but with the long lingering smoke of survival. You begin to notice the faintest hints of birdsong, muted and rare, but there, even the horses, once sullen in their endurance, lift their heads more often, ears twitching at signs of life beyond ice. The camp no longer moves as slowly, though no one dares call it spring. The old men say to wait until the third thaw, not the first, not the second, because the earth can lie, and you've learned to trust the rhythm of those who have watched more winters than you've lived summers. You begin repairing the broken, binding together torn boots, restringing saddles, sharpening blades dulled by the cold. These tasks don't feel like chores anymore. They feel like rituals, honors given to the living by the season that almost took them. In the evenings, the fire burns slightly higher, not out of celebration, but out of memory, to mark the fact that you did not vanish, that you are here, in a place so many never made it through. The stories you once found exhausting, tales of blizzards survived, of wolves fought off with nothing but a knife and a stare, now feel different. They feel earned. You begin to tell your own stories, quietly, to no one in particular, perhaps only to yourself. You speak of the night you could not feel your legs, and the morning you still stood, of the meal you gave up so a child could eat, of the boots you patched, not for glory, but because someone needed them. These stories don't need embellishment. They are enough. By the time the mud dries and the first scouts ride out, your hands have healed, though they are scarred in ways that will never fully fade. You welcome it. They are marks of a time that tested you more than any blade, and you passed, not by fighting, but by staying awake, by staying present, by staying alive. When the horses are saddled and the tents finally packed, no one claps or cheers. The silence is not emptiness, it is reverence. The steppe does not celebrate survival, it simply watches. And now, so do you. The ride that follows the break of winter is not fast, it is measured. Every hoofstep is calculated, every glance at the horizon checked twice. You have learned not to rush, simply because the air warms. The true risk, you now understand, comes when you believe the danger is past. As the camp moves, the steppe opens again, revealing bones beneath the snow, reminders of the lives that didn't make it. Horses lost to ice, riders who vanished during night patrols, even wagons half submerged in thawing marsh. You pass them in silence, your heart heavy, but your face calm. There are no words for that kind of remembering. In your pack, the dried meat has changed. It's now mixed with herbs gathered in the final thaw. The broth tastes different, brighter, still humble, still practical, but laced with something new. Hope, not loud, not certain, but steady. The conversations return slowly. At first, they are whispers by the fire, then brief jokes, quiet chuckles. Someone sings half of a song, someone else finishes it. The laughter is not the kind that shakes shoulders. It's the kind that hums from the chest, like coals that have waited all winter to glow. You write nothing of this in any journal. There are no scrolls or carved stones to remember this passage, but it is written into your posture, your silence, the way you now reach for others when they falter, not to lead but to steady. By the time the spring winds fully arrive, you are no longer who you were, and you do not mourn that person. You nod to them, thank them for beginning the journey, but you walk now as someone tempered, scarred, yes, but also softened in places and sharpened in others. And the winter, that old cold teacher, fades behind you, not as an enemy you survived, but as a shadow that shaped you. And when the night comes again, this time without the cruel edge of winter, you lie beneath your furs and listen to the breathing of the horde, not ragged, not desperate, but steady, and in that steady rhythm, you hear the final lesson of endurance. To survive is not to defy the season, but to flow with it, to yield without breaking, to suffer without vanishing, to keep moving, quietly, patiently, until the thaw. And so, beneath a sky no longer shrouded in ice, you breathe not just for survival, but for the quiet honor of having endured. Chapter 9. The return of the thunder before dawn breaks. You are awake. The stars have barely faded, and the pale blue of early morning tugs gently at the horizon. Around you, others stir silently. A few embers still glow in last night's fire pit. One rider stokes it back to life, not for warmth, but for ritual. The first light touches the edge of his blade as he sharpens it, not hurriedly, but with a care that speaks to reverence. You rise, pack, and walk a short distance uphill from the crest. The landscape opens in quiet majesty. Low fog rests in the valley below, curled like sleeping breath. In the far distance, silhouettes of other riders flicker in and out of view, shadows moving through mist. You wonder if they are your scouts returning, or eyes from another camp. There is serenity in this moment, yet beneath it, tension hums. The thunder that returned is more than hooves or sky. It is a change in current, a collective readiness. Every movement in the camp feels more purposeful. The laughter is softer, the gaze is longer. No one speaks of battle, but the awareness is everywhere. A messenger passes, silent save for the scuff of boots. He delivers nothing aloud, only nods to a cluster of commanders. You see them lean in, whisper, then straighten their backs. This is the language of leadership in the horde, not barked orders, but subtle turns of the head, shifts in body weight, small signs that ripple outward. You clean your blade one final time and fold your cloak. A young rider beside you ties his own boots tightly, glancing once at the sky, then at the terrain ahead. You exchange no words, only a look. And in that look, trust, fatigue, expectation. The horn sounds once, not sharp, but steady. It doesn't rush you. It simply marks the time. You mount your horse. The reins feel worn and familiar in your hands. With a light kick, your horse begins its step. One step, then another, and behind you and beside you, the horde begins again. You do not know what lies over the next ridge, but your place is here, and your breath is steady. You are part of something vast, something unbroken. The ride continues, not for glory, not for conquest alone, but because that is what it means to belong to the Horde, to ride, to endure, to return. Before dawn breaks, you are awake, the stars have barely faded, and the pale blue of early morning tugs gently at the horizon. Around you, others stir silently. A few embers still glow in last night's fire pit. One rider stokes it back to life, not for warmth, but for ritual. The first light touches the edge of his blade as he sharpens it, not hurriedly, but with a care that speaks to reverence. You rise, pack, and walk a short distance uphill. From the crest, the landscape opens in quiet majesty. Low fog rests in the valley below, curled like sleeping breath. In the far distance, silhouettes of other riders flicker in and out of view, shadows moving through mist. You wonder if they are your scouts returning, or eyes from another camp. There is serenity in this moment, yet beneath it, tension hums. The thunder that returned is more than hooves or sky. It is a change in current, a collective readiness. Every movement in the camp feels more purposeful. The laughter is softer, the gaze is longer. No one speaks of battle, but the awareness is everywhere. A messenger passes, silent save for the scuff of boots. He delivers nothing aloud, only nods to a cluster of commanders. You see them lean in, whisper, then straighten their backs. This is the language of leadership in the Horde. Not barked orders, but subtle turns of the head, shifts in body weight, small signs that ripple outward. You clean your blade one final time and fold your cloak. A young rider beside you ties his own boots tightly, glancing once at the sky, then at the terrain ahead. You exchange no words, only a look. And in that look, trust, fatigue, expectation. The horn sounds once, not sharp, but steady. It doesn't rush you. It simply marks the time. You mount your horse. The reins feel worn and familiar in your hands. With a light kick, your horse begins its step. One step, then another, and behind you, and beside you, the Horde begins again. You do not know what lies over the next ridge, but your place is here, and your breath is steady. You are part of something vast, something unbroken. The ride continues, not for glory, not for conquest alone, but because that is what it means to belong to the Horde, to ride, to endure, to return. Before dawn breaks, you are awake. The stars have barely faded, and the pale blue of early morning tugs gently at the horizon. Around you, others stir silently. A few embers still glow in last night's fire pit. One rider stokes it back to life, not for warmth, but for ritual. The first light touches the edge of his blade as he sharpens it. Not hurriedly, but with a care that speaks to reverence. You rise, pack, and walk a short distance uphill. From the crest, the landscape opens in quiet majesty. Low fog rests in the valley below, curled like sleeping breath. In the far distance, silhouettes of other riders flicker in and out of view, shadows moving through mist. You wonder if they are your scouts returning, or eyes from another camp. There is serenity in this moment, yet beneath it, tension hums. The thunder that returned is more than hooves or sky. It is a change in current, a collective readiness. Every movement in the camp feels more purposeful. The laughter is softer, the gaze is longer. No one speaks of battle, but the awareness is everywhere. A messenger passes, silent save for the scuff of boots. He delivers nothing aloud, only nods to a cluster of commanders. You see them lean in, whisper, then straighten their backs. This is the language of leadership in the Horde. Not barked orders, but subtle turns of the head, shifts in body weight, small signs that ripple outward. You clean your blade one final time and fold your cloak. A young rider beside you ties his own boots tightly, glancing once at the sky, then at the terrain ahead. You exchange no words, only a look. And in that look, trust, fatigue, expectation. The horn sounds once not sharp, but steady. It doesn't rush you. It simply marks the time. You mount your horse. The reins feel worn and familiar in your hands. With a light kick, your horse begins its step. One step, then another, and behind you and beside you, the Horde begins again. You do not know what lies over the next ridge, but your place is here, and your breath is steady. You are part of something vast, something unbroken. The ride continues, not for glory, not for conquest alone, but because that is what it means to belong to the Horde. To ride, to endure, to return. Before dawn breaks, you are awake. The stars have barely faded, and the pale blue of early morning tugs gently at the horizon. Around you, others stir silently. A few embers still glow in last night's fire pit. One rider stokes it back to life. Not for warmth, but for ritual. The first light touches the edge of his blade as he sharpens it. Not hurriedly, but with a care that speaks to reverence. You rise, pack, and walk a short distance uphill from the crest. The landscape opens in quiet majesty. Low fog rests in the valley below, curled like sleeping breath. In the far distance, silhouettes of other riders flicker in and out of view, shadows moving through mist. You wonder if they are your scouts returning, or eyes from another camp. There is serenity in this moment, yet beneath it, tension hums. The thunder that returned is more than hooves or sky. It is a change in current, a collective readiness. Every movement in the camp feels more purposeful. The laughter is softer, the gaze is longer. No one speaks of battle, but the awareness is everywhere. A messenger passes, silent save for the scuff of boots. He delivers nothing aloud, only nods to a cluster of commanders. You see them lean in, whisper, then straighten their backs. This is the language of leadership in the Horde, not barked orders, but subtle turns of the head, shifts in body weight, small signs that ripple outward. You clean your blade one final time and fold your cloak. A young rider beside you ties his own boots tightly, glancing once at the sky, then at the terrain ahead. You exchange no words, only a look, and in that look, trust, fatigue, expectation. The horn sounds once not sharp, but steady. It doesn't rush you, it simply marks the time. You mount your horse. The reins feel worn and familiar in your hands. With a light kick, your horse begins its step. One step, then another, and behind you, and beside you, the Horde begins again. You do not know what lies over the next ridge, but your place is here, and your breath is steady. You are part of something vast, something unbroken. The ride continues, not for glory, not for conquest alone, but because that is what it means to belong to the Horde, to ride, to endure, to return. Before dawn breaks, you are awake. The stars have barely faded, and the pale blue of early morning tugs gently at the horizon. Around you, others stir silently. A few embers still glow in last night's fire pit. One rider stokes it back to life, not for warmth, but for ritual. The first light touches the edge of his blade as he sharpens it, not hurriedly, but with a care that speaks to reverence. You rise, pack, and walk a short distance uphill. From the crest, the landscape opens in quiet majesty. Low fog rests in the valley below, curled like sleeping breath. In the far distance, silhouettes of other riders flicker in and out of view, shadows moving through mist. You wonder if they are your scouts returning, or eyes from another camp. There is serenity in this moment, yet beneath it, tension hums. The thunder that returned is more than hooves or sky. It is a change in current, a collective readiness. Every movement in the camp feels more purposeful. The laughter is softer, the gaze is longer. No one speaks of battle, but the awareness is everywhere. A messenger passes, silent save for the scuff of boots. He delivers nothing aloud, only nods to a cluster of commanders. You see them lean in, whisper, then straighten their backs. This is the language of leadership in the Horde. Not barked orders, but subtle turns of the head, shifts in body weight, small signs that ripple outward. You clean your blade one final time and fold your cloak. A young rider beside you ties his own boots tightly, glancing once at the sky, then at the terrain ahead. You exchange no words, only a look, and in that look, trust, fatigue, expectation. The horn sounds once, not sharp, but steady. It doesn't rush you. It simply marks the time. You mount your horse. The reins feel worn and familiar in your hands. With a light kick, your horse begins its step. One step, then another, and behind you and beside you, the horde begins again. You do not know what lies over the next ridge, but your place is here, and your breath is steady. You are part of something vast, something unbroken. The ride continues, not for glory, not for conquest alone, but because that is what it means to belong to the horde, to ride, to endure, to return. Before dawn breaks, you are awake. The stars have barely faded, and the pale blue of early morning tugs gently at the horizon. Around you, others stir silently. A few embers still glow in last night's fire pit. One rider stokes it back to life, not for warmth, but for ritual. The first light touches the edge of his blade as he sharpens it, not hurriedly, but with a care that speaks to reverence. You rise, pack, and walk a short distance uphill. From the crest, the landscape opens in quiet majesty. Low fog rests in the valley below, curled like sleeping breath. In the far distance, silhouettes of other riders flicker in and out of view, shadows moving through mist. You wonder if they are your scouts returning, or eyes from another camp. There is serenity in this moment, yet beneath it, tension hums. The thunder that returned is more than hooves or sky. It is a change in current, a collective readiness. Every movement in the camp feels more purposeful. The laughter is softer, the gaze is longer. No one speaks of battle, but the awareness is everywhere. A messenger passes, silent save for the scuff of boots. He delivers nothing aloud, only nods to a cluster of commanders. You see them lean in, whisper, then straighten their backs. This is the language of leadership in the horde. Not barked orders, but subtle turns of the head, shifts in body weight, small signs that ripple outward. You clean your blade one final time and fold your cloak. A young rider beside you ties his own boots tightly, glancing once at the sky, then at the terrain ahead. You exchange no words, only a look, and in that look, trust, fatigue, expectation. The horn sounds once, not sharp, but steady. It doesn't rush you, it simply marks the time. You mount your horse. The reins feel worn and familiar in your hands. With a light kick, your horse begins its step. One step, then another, and behind you, and beside you, the horde begins again. You do not know what lies over the next ridge, but your place is here, and your breath is steady. You are part of something vast, something unbroken. The ride continues, not for glory, not for conquest alone, but because that is what it means to belong to the horde, to ride, to endure, to return. Chapter 10. The silence after the storm. The storm, when it passed, did not announce its departure. It simply faded, like a breath exhaled into the void, leaving the landscape soaked, subdued, and strangely still. No thunder rolled behind it, no flash of light marked its ending. The sky lightened imperceptibly. The clouds peeled back in slow, gauzy layers, and in that space, in that brief silence where water still dripped from every branch and the air smelled heavy with earth, the world began again. You awaken not to a call or a signal, but to the quiet weight of your own body stirring. The fabric of your cloak clings to your side with cold damp. Your hair is matted at the temple. Your eyes open slowly, adjusting to the soft grey light above. The world is not loud. It does not ask anything of you yet. It is simply. Around the camp, others emerge, slowly, carefully, as if rising from a dream they aren't ready to leave. No one speaks. Words do not belong in this hour. They would be too sharp, too sudden, too much for what the moment can hold. Instead, the language is one of motion, rolling up a blanket, brushing off boots, wringing out a cloth. Each motion says, I am here, I have endured, I am ready to move again. The road ahead is softer now, Mud clings to hooves and boots, turning every step into labor, but no one complains. There is no illusion of ease in the horde, only recognition that each day unfolds as it must. The riders space themselves instinctively, adjusting for the changing terrain. No orders are given. They move like the tide, deliberate, synchronized, without hesitation. The world smells different after rain, richer, more honest. The soil is open, the leaves slick and gleaming, the wind gentle and carrying. Somewhere, a fox watches from the brambles, unseen but present. Birds remain quiet, as if also adjusting to the morning's hush. You notice things like this now, small shifts, brief moments, the kind of details that only reveal themselves when the world slows. You pass a broken fence. Its timbers are warped and bowed, leaning away from the road like tired men. Behind it, an abandoned pasture. No animals graze there, only tall, tangled grass and old impressions where hooves once pressed. You wonder who lived there, who tended it, who left it behind. But the horde does not stop for questions. Your hands no longer tremble at the chill. The ride has warmed your call. Beside you, another rider chews something, perhaps dried root or preserved fruit. He offers you a piece, wordlessly. You take it. It is sour and sharp, but it wakes your mouth. You nod in thanks. He nods once and turns forward again. This is the only exchange. Later, a tree has fallen across the path. Its trunk is old, wide, slick with rain. No one curses it. No one debates. The front riders dismount, slice small branches for footing, and begin to shift stones into the mud to form a makeshift passage. Others gather without call, pushing, lifting, clearing a route. It is not fast, but it is sure. When it is done, the horde flows forward once again, as though the tree had never fallen. The morning deepens, and with it, a slow return to rhythm. The sounds of movement swell in the distance, leather against leather, metal brushing fabric, hooves compressing soil. You begin to hear voices now. Not loud, not laughing, but exchanged softly, tactical, observant. Riders checking supplies, adjusting saddle straps, making note of nearby game trails. A group pauses by a stream. The water runs high from the storm, churning slightly at the bends. One of them kneels, cups his hands and drinks. Another refills a water skin, tying it tightly. You dip your fingers in, letting the chill numb your joints. Across the stream, a deer watches. It does not bolt. It blinks once, then turns back into the trees. There is no alarm. The forest has accepted you, for now. You follow a narrow trail now, carved gently into the earth by generations of feet, hooves, and wheels. It winds upward. At one point, the horizon opens before you. The valley below stretches wide, dotted with faint signs of life, plumes of smoke, small huts nestled into hillsides, and distant movement on the roads. The horde doesn't turn toward them, not yet. Up ahead, the vanguard scouts halt briefly. They've found tracks, deep ones, made by iron wheels and heavy animals. A cart caravan passed here, perhaps a day ago, maybe less. The commanders discuss briefly, then signal to continue. No haste. No change of pace. The horde does not chase. It arrives. As the sun lifts, the landscape dries. Steam curls from the grass. Your cloak flutters in the wind, slightly stiff where it dried unevenly. You adjust your saddle, take a piece of dried meat from your pouch, and chew slowly. You do not rush. Food is not a pleasure here. It is a resource, a measurement of how many hours you can endure without needing more. Later in the day, the road forks. One path descends into a low wooded area, darker and softer. The other climbs, a gradual slope marked by old stones. The choice is not discussed publicly. A single rider from the command group signals left. The horde veers as one. No one questions. No one strays. In the Mongol Horde, the path is followed not because it is explained, but because it is chosen. You ride into the shadows of tall trees. The air grows cooler again. Ferns rise thick around the base of trunks. You hear birdsong, now thin, reedy melodies that echo above. There's something ancient about this path. Not sacred, not cursed, just old. It has seen many pass. Some returned, some did not. You come across a clearing where sunlight falls unfiltered for the first time today. The horses seem to respond, lifting their heads, snorting into the light. A brief halt is called, not for rest, not for leisure, only for reassessment. A few riders step off their mounts, checking straps and gear, ensuring the procession can continue without incident. You dismount as well, stretching your legs, letting your spine adjust. The saddle leaves an imprint you no longer notice, a part of you now. The silence is profound here, not empty, but whole. Even the birds seem to pause. You walk a short distance from the group and find a fallen tree to sit upon. Your hands brush against its bark, moss-covered, soft to the touch. You close your eyes, if only for a breath. Just a breath. When the signal comes, it's soft, a fluttering flag, a single raised hand. Movement resumes. And so do you. Back in the saddle, your legs recall their duty. The line reforms as naturally as a stream over rock. By afternoon, you pass remnants of an old settlement. Stone outlines where homes once stood, sunken fire pits, broken pottery buried in weeds. No one speaks of it. But you see heads tilt, eyes narrow. The past lies just beneath the surface, always visible if you choose to look. One elder rider mutters something in a tongue you don't know, perhaps a blessing or a warning. You ride on. The trees begin to thin. A wide plain unfurls before you, painted in long golden grass and patches of wild flowers. The wind is stronger here, pushing eastward, always eastward. The riders form tighter ranks. You adjust your scarf. The taste of dust mixes with the faint sweetness of crushed petals under hoof. A shadow passes overhead. You glance up. A lone hawk circles high above, its wings stretched, motionless, watching. The horde doesn't stop, nor does the hawk. Each obeys its nature. As evening nears, the sky turns a deeper blue, layered with slow-moving clouds like brushstrokes. Fires will be lit soon. Not yet, but soon. The sun dips low as the horizon drinks its light. The pace slows. You feel it more than see it. An easing of shoulders, the softening of posture, the beginning of rest. There is no whistle or command. The horde simply knows. It is time to make camp. The riders spread out across a dry ridge. Tents are not pitched. Only cloaks, draped over lines or spears, forming makeshift shelters against the cooling wind. Fires are lit in sunken pits to hide their glow. Smoke is kept low. The Mongol horde does not announce itself. You find a patch of ground near a cluster of stones and begin your routine. Unsaddle the horse, brush him down, rub warmth into his legs, feed him from your last pouch of oats. He leans into your touch, his eyes soft with fatigue. You say nothing, but he hears you anyway. Nearby, a group prepares a shared pot, bone broth, dried mushrooms, something with roots and spices you cannot name. The scent is humble, but inviting. One bowl is passed to you. You accept it with both hands, nodding in thanks. The heat from the bowl travels into your palms, grounding you. No stories are told, no songs sung, not tonight. Only the low crackle of fire, the shifting of gear, and the breathing of those around you. The night is not dangerous, but it is alert. You lie back against your saddle, cloak pulled over your chest. The stars begin to pierce the darkness one by one. They do not twinkle, they do not ask for attention. They simply endure. You exhale. It has been a long day, longer than most. Your eyes begin to close, but your thoughts wander. You think of where you started, of what it means to belong, of how silence carries more truth than speech. The horde does not explain itself, and yet you understand it, more each day. Sleep comes not as escape, but as surrender, not weakness, but trust. You pull the cloak tighter, somewhere nearby. A horse snorts. Another turns in his sleep. You are safe. Not because the world is gentle, but because you have learned how to live within it. Tomorrow will come, and you will ride again. That is all. That is enough. The hours between dusk and midnight stretch long in the steppe. There is no sound but the crackling of buried fires and the rustling of hides caught in the breeze. Some men sleep early, their backs curved like bows beneath the sky. Others sharpen blades in silence, more out of habit than threat. Even in rest, they are prepared. You lie still, the earth cool beneath you. The sky feels impossibly wide. The stars above remind you of stories your grandmother once told. Stories about riders who flew so fast they tore holes through the heavens. You wonder if she ever imagined you'd ride among those shadows. Someone passes behind you. You do not turn. You do not need to. The rhythm of footsteps, the slight creak of gear, these things tell you enough. You are among people who have become as familiar as the sounds of your own breath. A soft whistle signals a change of watch. Riders quietly rise and trade places. There is no need for torches or chatter. The darkness is not an enemy. It is a companion. The night guards are not chosen for strength, but for stillness. The kind of stillness that lets a hawk land near without fear. Sleep comes in waves now. Not deep, not lasting, but enough to mend muscle and mind. In dreams, you are not on horseback. You are floating, weightless, free, somewhere between earth and sky. You see plains without end, rivers like silver threads, trees that whisper in old tongues. Then it fades. Morning will bring motion. But for now, the stillness is sacred. You do not disturb it. You let it cradle you, like a mother with no name, no language, only warmth. You whisper a word of thanks, though no one hears it. Not even you. Just before first light, a breeze dances across the plain. It carries with it the scent of distant water and the faint trace of ash. You inhale slowly. It smells like continuation, not promise, not purpose, just the truth that the day will come and you will meet it. A single horse snorts and stamps, sensing movement. The camp begins to wake, not with noise, but with subtle rustlings. Hands adjusting straps, boots finding footing, eyes scanning the horizon out of habit. The silence is not broken. It evolves. You rise with the rest, brush off dust, and find your horse waiting. There is no call to mount. You simply do. Like breath, following breath, the horde begins its quiet motion once more. Each step a continuation of something older than command or memory.